Meeting?
What do you don't need, but
Did you start, you start the recording?
Yes.
yeah, I'll make a motion, we start the meeting?
Okay, second. We're gonna, we don't have, Public Works isn't here yet, are they? They do.
Mike's just coming in.
He's coming in,
He'll be
okay,
in,
so we can do,
So,
the first order on the agenda is review and approve the 8:17 and the 8:23 minutes.
Do you want to put that off until we hear it from them, so they're not waiting for us?
Who
Just
will be
get it
waiting?
done. Let's just get it done, that way the minutes are done and they get posted.
Well, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I think we move ahead with
That's
them,
fine.
get them posted and then we just,
Okay,
because it's old business.
yeah, that's fine.
So do I have a motion to review and approve those minutes?
Well, all you have to do is just ask.
There is a correction to the 23rd. I was here, and I'm not listed as being here.
Okay, we're working on the 17th.
The
Or
17th
whichever.
first,
But
yeah,
what I'm
17th.
saying is Ellen should be listed as absent.
On the
Should be,
17th, and here on the
under
23rd.
present, there should be an absent Ellen Phillips.
Yeah, on the 17th, should be.
Yeah. And, but also present on the 23rd, so I am here, I was here the 23rd.
And under present,
Well, let's do the 17th first. And we have any,
All right, I just thought we were doing all of them.
and under present, it says Dorothy Vizel, Vice Chair Bickford. So I would say scratch out Bickford.
yeah, how did that get on there?
Well, she probably types it automatically,
Okay,
Chair.
you're the vice chair. We have anything else? Take your time. Greg, you have anything that,
Yeah, I just need to look at it a little bit.
okay.
Does anyone remember the second page, second paragraph, who Police Chief Bernier said he's taking the cruisers to? It's this question mark, does anyone remember?
Oh, I do remember, because I use the same mechanic.
Okay.
It's,
Finish line.
Finish Line, yeah, Finish Line,
We're on Davis Cross.
Davis Crossing, he's a good mechanic. I like him.
And the first sentence sort of doesn't make sense. Police Chief Bernier stated there was a reduction from 5 to 4 police cruisers with the next replacement scheduled for in 2015. 2015 is last year.
Did he replace anything in 2015?
I don't think that's right.
I wasn't here half the year,
Yes,
so.
yes.
He did?
Yes.
But, so then,
There was a new vehicle in 2015.
Yeah.
there was a, okay, scheduled in, so I would say there had been a reduction, there had been a reduction from 5 to 4 cruises. With the next replacement, I guess my problem is with the next replacement scheduled for,
A year that's gone by already.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
Well, that is
so we
correct.
should look it up when the next replacement is.
The next replacement will be 2018. So that should be 2018.
2018?
That's what it should be.
Is that what the schedule says?
No,
The 2011 Explorer. Okay, so that should say instead of 2015, 2018.
But they did replace one in 15.
Right,
Yeah, but
right.
that's not what we're talking about.
So-
The next one to be replaced.
There had been a reduction from 5 to 4 cruisers with the next replacement scheduled for 2018.
Okay. We have any additional commentary on reviewing the minutes on the 17th of August?
Maybe I'm not there yet.
Hmm?
I'm not there yet.
Okay.
There's a typo, just a S on it's on the back page. Paragraph begins, Police Chief Bernier, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line down, right after the question marks for the mechanic. But it is time.
Oh, yeah. Go that one.
But it, you say?
Well, it can't be it's time.
Yeah,
or
it
it's
is.
It
gotta
is
be
time
both.
consuming, yeah.
It is.
It is.
Or take out the is, whichever you want to do. Anyway, it is time consuming. And also in that same paragraph, the very next to the last line, it said, he recommended replacement period be 7 years instead of 8 due to the increased wear on cruisers.
On fewer, yeah.
On
fewer
cruisers.
Yeah,
Okay.
because there
Take
are
out
fewer
A.
cruisers, yeah.
On cruisers in
I
a
had
smaller
noticed
fleet. Increased wear, shouldn't it be? Or increased wear, doesn't make sense to me.
Sounds like
It
increased.
should be increased
Yeah.
wear on cruisers in a smaller fleet,
Yeah, indeed.
right? Is that okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
So if you add a D,
Yeah.
D and take out A.
Well, let's add, in that larger paragraph on page 2, where it says, Police Chief Bernier stated officers take cruisers home when on call. I think he also mentioned, and I think it's important, that he has a cruiser that he keeps at home, and so does Sergeant Meady.
They both have.
I'm sorry, Greg, I didn't hear that. Could you repeat that louder, please?
Police Chief Bernier stated officers take cruisers home when they're on call. But he also mentioned that he keeps his cruiser 24 hours, and so does Sergeant Meady. So I think we need to put that in there.
But the idea is if you have officers who live close enough to the police department, they take them home, and we don't know in the,
Yeah, it said 20 minutes.
yeah,
or
they
20
gotta
yeah,
be
20 minutes,
close enough to
what
come
he said.
in. So that depends upon who we hire and where they
He
live.
did, but, you know, Mr. Anthony is right. The chief did say he takes his cruiser.
He takes his cruiser
Yeah, he
home.
takes
Right.
the-
He did say
Because
that.
he's the one that is on call in the middle of the night when there is no coverage.
Right,
So
I
he's quite
understand
right,
that.
he did say that.
I
Yeah.
understand that, but I think that my understanding then is that it was like the two of them take theirs home, but no one else, but we don't know who.
Well, isn't
else.
Sergeant Meady not working?
No.
He doesn't need a cruiser.
Not right now, he hurt his
Mm.
foot, he'll be back. He'll be back.
But, no, I guess why we need to put that in there is, and this is why I was questioning Chief Bernier on this, is how many cruisers do we actually need? And, we've gone from 5 to 4. And if we're staying at 4, why do we need 4? And his explanation, I felt, was very informative. But it was informative because he takes his cruiser home, the sergeant takes his cruiser home, and then we have the officer that's on call takes his cruiser home as long as it's within 20 minutes. And then that leaves the fourth, well, we didn't go into this, but in a sense, it leaves a fourth cruiser for a backup, if you want to call it that, or for any other issues. So I think to me, it demonstrated that we need 4 cruisers.
My understanding is as many officers as we have who live within 20 minutes of town take their cruisers home with them. Is that correct, Scott?
Not necessarily, hasn't been the practice. It's
Well, that's what he said.
Well, you haven't had them since you've been here. You haven't had
Well,
anybody.
there's 8 officers over there now, whether they be part-time,
But they're
full-time, or
part-time.
otherwise, that are on patrolling. So the chief has a car, the sergeant has a car generally. They usually leave the other 2 cars here, and then the officers that are working the regular patrol schedule come in and get them, whoever the night car is that is going on call at the end of the night, takes that car home and takes the call. And then that leaves another car here, so the day shift person coming in if it's not one of the other people that has a car at home, they have a car here that uses
That's right.
it every day.
Do we know, and I still didn't understand what he said, what the coverage is? I mean, how many policemen, are we covered 24 hours a day? If
No.
not, how many hours a day are we covered? 7 days a week?
Yeah, right now, he's, you know, trying to cover from 8 AM until midnight. Okay, so 16 hours a day, for actual patrol coverage.
Mhm.
And then they go on call at night, and to help out with some of that on-call, he's asked the state police to help out if they're in the area, to do that.
Because I see sometimes 4 cruisers out there,
Yep,
and that indicates to me that's not coverage. There's 4 cruisers that are sitting.
yep. And that could be the case at this given time, because Sergeant Meady is out with an injury. The chief takes generally one home, or he's here on patrol. And that could be during the day, he'd be the only person on, so there would be 4 cruisers here, because the other people are part-time, and they may take a car home at night, and sometimes the part-time people right now don't take call because they have another commitment, or they live farther away.
Let me see if I understand this. So if there are 4 cruisers here and they're not covered, there's no coverage on the, you know.
Other than calling the chief out or the state police. Yeah.
No,
But it's during the daytime, it's during those hours that you
if there's,
indicated.
if there's 4 there,
Yeah,
the police chief is in the office.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why there's 4 there. And when
What about
meeting
the other
gets,
3? If there's supposed to be coverage from 8 AM to midnight,
well,
We don't have the people around it.
Bernier's taking some of those scheduled periods of time.
okay, even though he's in office and not.
Right,
not
but if
in
a
the
call
field.
comes in, he
Yeah,
leaves the
right.
office and goes on
With
call.
He's been covering
Yeah.
virtually, you know, five days a week, he's been covering a patrol shift because of staff situation. You got one guy in the academy right now, Sergeant Meady, who's out with an injury, and then,
Do you know when he's expected back on?
I-
He's about
I don't
halfway
know.
through his
I think it was maybe October.
Yeah. Well, I guess the whole point I was trying to make was, if we were trying to figure out, you know, we have 4 cars, if somebody asked us, why do we need 4 cars? I thought his explanation was, you know, he keeps a cruiser 24 hours.
Right.
Meady keeps a cruiser 24 hours.
Well, Meady's doesn't have a cruiser.
Not right now.
No, he
What-
doesn't have one.
No,
So
but he will have, he will have one 24 hours.
how does that talk to the coverage? If, you know, that's still the question that I'm,
Well, when they
don't
call in
understand.
when they call in a part-timer, they use one of the other 2 cruisers.
so how many actual part-timers do we have and how many full-timers do we have?
We have about,
Maybe
I
that's good.
think it's 6 right now. Oh, no, we just hired a
They
guy.
don't work during the day
So we're
usually.
7.
They have other full-time jobs, they don't usually work.
Yeah, but I'm more interested about the coverage. I want to know how many police
They're
we
not here during the
have.
day usually, they're here at night or on weekends,
So
because we have other
we don't need
full-time
coverage in the
jobs.
daytime, you're saying?
We have the chief,
Him alone?
We do,
generally.
Right now.
we do need coverage during the day.
No, I'm just curious, you know, because I mean, if we've got that many, if we're paying that many salaries for officers to staff and provide coverage, then it's coverage that's needed. You need to define what the coverage is. And if we don't have,
When I asked the question at the last meeting, where did this magical 16 hours come from 8 in the morning to 12 at midnight, I never got a straight answer from anybody. So
Well,
I
that's
don't
what I'm
know if
still
that's
trying to figure
really
out.
a cast in stone
No.
department objective. That if we don't have officers, we shouldn't be patrolling till midnight if we're short-staffed. I mean, I just don't.
well, the chief is administrative
Yeah, I
duties
mean,
too,
we've
so I
got
mean,
people on
I'm
call
sure that
and
keeps
then
him
we've got
busy.
sheriff and
Oh.
state police backup, but I still never got a straight answer for the 16 hours.
It's when,
You might want to check the 2016 budget, which is quite well defined in terms of what the coverage is and all of that.
check what?
2016 budget,
2016.
detailed, it's quite well defined what the
Yeah.
hours are. I think it's already been defined a couple of times during this discussion. Second part, I think Scott gave a pretty good explanation of, from the CIP point of view, I think you want to be looking at the capital piece of it, which is the cruisers. I think Scott gave a pretty good review. Chief takes his home, sergeant takes his home, he's, you know, on injury right now, but we're talking 9 months, not 2 months or 3 months here. So he takes his home on call.
So the remaining
Uh,
two,
Well, if the officer is less than 20 miles on call, they will take it home, which leaves a vehicle for the incoming day shift to be able to use when they arrive in shift. They don't have to wait for the on-call person to come back in, if they could still be on call even. So that's the reason for the 4. Chief and the sergeant take home, and they are on call even off hours.
still doesn't
Full-time.
define coverage to me.
No, it's not.
It doesn't define it.
You look at the, that's, I said that earlier, look at the 2016 budgets, defined very, very clearly.
Dennis,
No, excuse me, you're right. We've never justified coverage. I think that's where it's going with this. It may be defined, someone may say, I want this much, but it's
Yeah,
not
right.
justified. I think that's where Tony came from,
Yeah.
but you're
Yeah,
really.
I've never seen anything
No.
justifying 16 hours.
No, I've never been able to get an answer either.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would get moving on these minutes because you've got.
Two
Yeah.
people
You've
waiting.
got a thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the people in this committee are not finished asking questions, Mr. Bickford. I have a question to ask, if you don't mind, of Scott, and even if you mind, I'm gonna ask the question. When we have a full police department, which we don't have now, if we get the officers trained at the academy, and we have 4 full-time officers and the chief, we will also have police officers who will be going to court, correct? We will also perhaps have a police officer who will be doing an investigation, even though he's not on patrol, driving around. So when we have, as soon as possible, our full-time police department, those 4 cruisers will be needed. There will be one needed for a police officer who's doing an investigation, for a police officer who is going to court, for the one who, for the chief, for the sergeant when he comes in, and for the person who's coming in to cover perhaps part-time if we need them at night and on weekend. Those vehicles will all be used. Right now, we basically have the chief and
That's
some
it.
part-timers. So no, they're not being used, but when we're back to full force, those vehicles will all be used, and used more than they should be, because there actually should be a 5th,
When I asked.
my point of view.
When I asked Chief Bernier about this, he basically, I said, are 4 cruisers enough? And he said, yes. So that told me that the schedule for the police cruisers are fine, but we're kind of getting off the subject here about schedule. What we need to do is put in these minutes that if we're talking about the police cruisers, we need to talk about what Chief Bernier said. He said that he keeps one 24 hours, Sergeant Beatty will have one 24 hours, that leaves 2 cruisers. And he felt that was significant.
Okay, we're just gonna deal with what he said, and that's,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the minutes of August 17th, 2016 as amended.
Well, what's,
Well, the amendments being the
2018.
correction of the date, taking the S, putting in the name of the mechanic, taking off some punctuation, and adding, I believe you wanted to add the sentence, Chief said he and Sergeant Meady take cruisers home during the night. One cruiser goes home with the on-call person if they're within range, and one stays at the station. Did I capture that correctly?
I think so,
Yeah.
that's acceptable, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, that's the amendment.
And, yeah.
And you might want to add that, Chief Bernier said 4 cruisers are sufficient.
At current staffing levels. Is that correct?
No, that's all he said. The 4 cruisers are sufficient. Well, I tell you something, we've made quite a few amendments here. Rather than approve these, why don't we have people make their amendments? We'll come back to it the next time and make sure everybody accepts it.
Well, that's the reason meetings never get, minutes never get
Okay,
posted.
let's
Let's
look at
amend
the
them,
23rd.
let's have them retyped, and let's have them as amended.
Well,
Done. I mean, they're not big changes, let's put them in, done.
well, You want to see what actually is, after it's typed in, what it actually says.
No, I don't, because most committees don't do that over and over.
Well, this was
so I really
difficult, this
don't.
one, because we had Peter there for the video. We had no one taking notes, and incidentally, would you, I'll come back to that later.
We had the tape recorder going though. I think that's how Jennifer Reel reconstructed the minutes, so she can go back and capture the language. All right, should we move on to August 23rd?
Yeah, I think we should move on to August 23rd.
Yeah.
So we'll accept the minutes. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as, or are we going to defer?
We're going to have to defer because we're not sure how the wording's going to be put down. We need to have it in written form.
And that would
so
be
that-
helpful.
Yeah. So my suggestion would be, is what we do for the Board of Selectmen.
Exactly.
People put in their changes, what they want, and in additions. And then at the next meeting, we look at those, and then we decide to accept some of those and not, and then if we do, we can approve them. But right now, this is kind
There's
of
too many,
all over the
there's
map.
too many corrections on this.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to see a full thing.
Yeah.
So,
So are we moving on to August 23rd?
yes. So I have a motion to, we're going to defer the August 17th minutes until,
I disagree, but
okay. Do I have a second on that motion? Defer until
Well,
we
I
get,
don't think we need to vote on that.
sure? All right. Okay, Dot, on the August 23rd.
add my name, please.
Okay, absolutely.
Present.
And once again, cross off Bickford next to vice chair.
And in the first paragraph on the library, fourth line from the bottom, there was a discussion about the work done a few years ago instead of about. I'm sure the computer just put about in.
And her last name is Allen,
Allen.
Kathy Allen,
A-L-L-Y-N, right?
right?
Where was that other one, Ellen?
It's in the paragraph about the library, fourth line up from the bottom, where it says work done a few years about, and it should be a few years ago. And that was just the computer
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
correcting.
just a grammatical.
Yeah, correct, the computer, she must have hit the B and it came out of
Okay.
it.
Where is it again on this?
Fourth line from the bottom of the paragraph on the library.
Okay.
And in the next sentence, Kathy's recommendation for ergonomic adjustments were to be made to the front computer station,
Yeah.
not the front desk, the computer. Oh, actually.
No, she said the front
Also the
desk.
front desk, I
front
beg your pardon,
desk.
and the computer station.
So the front desk is okay, but we want to add
Yep,
computer.
add the computer station.
I don't recall her
I don't
saying.
recall her
she
saying
didn't
the
rec-
computer
she
station.
didn't-
Yeah, she
Follow
said
closely
she-
because my wife
She
is
gets
on
a crick in her back because of the way it's angled.
And that they've tried to turn it, but
Yeah.
But I don't think
Hasn't
she
worked.
mentioned
I'm not
that.
sure what the ergonomic correction would be.
it. I didn't hear that. I didn't.
I heard it. But you
Well,
wanna go listen to the, was that, that wasn't videoed either.
I didn't hear the workstation on the front, but she
Yeah,
wanted
I do
some
remember saying that having to reach
modifications on
forward.
that, right.
And the computer station, that she's getting a permanent crick in her back and her neck.
Because
from
of
the
Well, that's
angle.
part, the computer station is all part of that front
Oh,
thing.
Yeah.
It's on the other
It's on the
side.
other side. Yeah, the front.
Well,
she's
she
talking
doesn't
about-
use that, the kids in the
No,
library.
no, no,
No,
no.
no,
This
no.
is in the area
In the
where the
staff
librarian
computer.
works. The computer is to the left, the desk where they check out books is to the right, and that is,
It's a staff.
the
computer.
Well, like I
area
said, I
that
didn't hear it, and I thought she meant the whole thing. She wanted ergonomically to redesign the whole space where, their workspace there. And I thought, naturally, the computer is there, and,
Well, if you want to say, well, I didn't
Front
hear
desk
her
area.
say the whole
Pardon?
desk, but.
Front desk area.
yeah, the front desk area, I mean, that's what
Okay,
I understood. I
all
mean, like, correct me if I'm
I
wrong,
do, I
but.
do recall, her talking about the front area, but I
Yeah,
also
yeah.
know that she made reference to the desk.
But the computer, that is the computer area where the Max used to keep his
No,
computer
She talked
on
about
and the
really that the
library.
counter was not the right depth.
Yeah.
Or he had to reach across it, so I think it's the whole front.
And there is a computer, if this is the front desk, there is a computer here. She was referring to the computer over here. right inside the
Yeah,
door
that
going
inside
into
the work area,
children's
that's
room.
where the books are checked in and out.
But
and
this is
that
the computer
Yeah.
she was referring
Yeah.
to,
one.
yeah.
Well, I thought you meant the whole thing anyway.
Well, if you want to put the
Yeah.
whole thing, that's fine, To the
Well, that was my
complete
understanding.
workstation, the whole workstation?
Yeah, she was gonna reorganize it and ergonomically design the whole work area.
Well, I
What
would,
what she mentioned was to the front desk, and if you want to add area, that's fine.
Yeah,
And that ends it.
I thought it was the whole area. I mean, I didn't hear her say anything that include the computer station. That, from
Right.
what I observed, it's all the same area.
I don't recall that either.
It's just semantics.
well, you
I
just
guess.
want, you want to include, just
Yeah.
add the words including the computer station?
Yeah.
Or just
Okay.
area.
All right, including the computer station.
Wait a minute, but I don't recall her ever mentioning the computer area. What she said, need to make to the front desk area.
But that does include.
Right.
I mean, she has two workstations, one where the books come in, she has a
Right.
computer over there, and then they have
So
a
just-
personal computer that they
Right.
keep, whatever they keep
So
on it.
just add area to front desk, would
Yeah.
that cover it?
Desk, yeah.
Front desk area, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
That
so
sound
you're just
all
going
right,
to have the word
Front
area?
desk area.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's up to
front
Kathy to advocate for it.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I would like to, after the sentence, it was noted the expected amount could be $60,000 for replacement in 2017. I would like to add that the town administrator said that he was going to research that figure.
On that
I'm
first
on the
line
back
of it.
page, yeah, on the first line, sorry, I should have,
Yeah. After the 2017, just as the town administrator's going to research.
It should probably be priorities that the ladder truck, priorities the ladder truck. I don't know if that sounds good.
He said he has the money in the capital reserve, he said, to replace. Because I remember I questioned, I said, if you had a bond, what is the cost of debt service on a bond? If you had to replace a $500,000 truck, would it be cheaper to bond it or pay a, whatever you call it, pay as you go, lease purchase? But he said he has the money. I actually went over there the next day and wanted to look at the truck, and he showed it to me. It looked incredible condition, but then again, I don't drive them, and I don't know.
Well, this doesn't make any sense either. You don't know what they're talking about. The last sentence in page 1, which I ask about the replacement value for the 2008 Ford Expedition. It was noted the expected amount could be $60,000 for replacement. What we should mention that it's the command car.
Yeah.
It's kind of left up in the air. What are we talking about here?
So after Expedition, put command car.
Well, you need to put it somewhere. The replacement for the value of the 2008 Ford Expedition,
Command car.
which is now the fire department command car. It was noted that the command car's expected amount could be $60,000 for replacement in 2017. So you need to put command car in both of those sentences, so it makes sense what you're talking about.
spending a lot of
So,
time on these
Are we
minutes.
ready to, I'm ready to
Yeah.
make a motion, or do you want the minutes tabled until the edits are written up?
Well, I'd like them tabled until we see the edited
Oh,
version.
okay, okay. And we have a second motion to table it till we see an edited version.
This is why we hold the minutes to last.
Yeah,
And that's why the minutes are never done.
Okay.
okay. Now, moving along. Parks and Rec.
Hello. So you should all have the CIP request for Parks and Recreation. We are proposing to set up a CRF, so we do not have a current CRF for Parks and Recreation at this time, I believe. And then going forward to purchase a town vehicle, a 12-passenger van, and as well as equipment for a natural playground down at the ball fields. I'm not sure if you just want me to go through this instead of
Yeah.
having to read it. So the Parks and Recreation Department would like to propose a CIP request for the purchase of a 12-passenger van to be used as a town vehicle. Such a vehicle would be made available for use by all departments for excursions, including but not limited to the following: monthly Parks and Recreation adult and youth trips. Parks and Rec will be introducing monthly trips in the fall of 2016 and will include trips to fairs and festivals, special events, theater productions, museums, science centers, music venues, and more. Staff trainings. Town staff in all departments have training workshops, seminars, and certifications throughout the year in various locations outside of New Durham. A town vehicle would allow them use of reliable transportation outside of their own vehicles. Additionally, it would ensure a group of staff members could attend the same training together. Library trips and events. We have support from the library on this for use, including driving Lego League participants to competitions, taking a local taking a trip to a local theater for the play version of the book club's latest read, etc. Voting. A town vehicle could help ensure all residents can attend voting days who want to but do not have a safe, reliable way to reach the polling station with help from the town. Additionally, a town vehicle would reduce the cost of field trips to attendees. Currently, a 12-passenger van can be rented at Enterprise for $112.33 per day. If 11 attendees sign up, that means they are paying, in addition to the cost of the event or programming, $10 or more. An additional $10 or more can mean the difference between being able to afford a trip for some attendees. Reducing costs increases affordability of trips to more residents in town. Eliminates the need of a minimum number of attendees. Currently, trips must meet a minimum number of attendees in order to recuperate the cost of the vehicle rental. If this number is not met, the trip must be canceled. Open up recreation possibilities. Without worrying about a minimum number of attendees, trips can be tailored to different groups of New Durham residents. Instead of needing to choose a trip that is popular among the broad public, ensuring attendance numbers, trips can be chosen by interest, such as a trip to an art museum for budding youth artists, or to catch fall foliage to the White Mountains for leaf peepers. Parks and Recreation proposes to host one youth and one adult trip per month starting late fall 2016. At the current rate of renting a 12-passenger van from Enterprise at $112.33 per day, it would cost $2,695.92 per year to rent for these trips. Additionally, Recreation hosts 10 field trips during the summer at an additional cost of $1,123.30 a year if the van is rented. Sometimes the bus needs to be requested. That is a total of $3,819.22 per year, or after 10 years, $38,192.20 of renting. That doesn't include if other town departments did make use of the town vehicle, which I anticipate they would. This proposal includes $30,000 for the purchase of a new 12-passenger van, similar to the ones in the accompanying descriptions. They're included in the back. I just included two examples. Assuming the new vehicle would come with a standard 36,000 warranty, 36,000 mile warranty, and the vehicle would be used for 5,000 miles or less each year, based on general field trip miles and other vehicle use considerations. A maintenance cost for the town vehicle will consist of an oil change each year, approximately $50. Of course, you can get them cheaper, until year 8, during which the warranty would end. Starting with year 8, maintenance costs would increase. I do not have specifics on what that might be. We don't have a town mechanic. I wasn't sure who to reach out to for those. I could get those costs for you. Replacement of the town vehicle would be projected to year 10. So that's for the town vehicle proposal.
What's used now?
So we have to rent, either we rent a vehicle from Enterprise, a 12-passenger van from Enterprise, or a bus from the Governor Wentworth School District. So it depends on the size of the trip, how many
They
people
charge
have
you, the
going.
Governor Wentworth School?
Yeah,
District?
they charge us as well, yeah. We, what they charge is for the actual staff member, so we pay their salary for the trip. So it'll depend on how many hours the trip is, which is what the cost is plus gas.
What does that cost?
It's $14 an hour, and it includes,
That includes the driver?
that is the driver, so it's $14 an hour, we pay for every hour of the trip, so that includes when they drop us off, and then they pick us up 4 hours later, we pay all 4 hours because they're on call in case something happened.
Okay, then the $14 is just for the school bus?
Yeah, and then we would pay for gas.
And what did you say the driver cost per hour?
That is the driver. We are lucky that they only charge us for the driver currently.
They don't charge us for the bus?
No, it's just the driver. So depending on how long the trip is, sometimes it is cheaper to use a bus than it is to use a van.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't make sense if you have 6 kids to take a huge, economically and environmentally.
Do they have smaller buses?
They have 20-passenger vans. But again, if you only have,
But that's still cheaper than renting it.
depending on how long the trip is.
Yeah.
How much money did, excuse me, go ahead, Greg.
No, go ahead.
How much money did you generate? I mean, if you're taking 10 people from the library, how much money have you generated last year?
In fees,
In fees?
currently, we don't take anyone from the library. For Parks and Rec, we base all our numbers on a minimum number of attendees, so that if we hit that number, we'll just cover our costs. We haven't, for example, this summer, we haven't taken in any money as fundraising for having gone above those numbers, so.
But in your proposal here, you're assuming that people are gonna pay $10 per person?
Well, they would need to if we were renting a vehicle.
Let's say the library, for lack of another
Yeah,
entity, wants to take 10 people to Lego, whatever.
yeah, Legoland, yeah.
Legoland.
that's it, Yeah.
And, so the library would have to pay you $100 minimum.
No, I'm proposing that this would be a
No,
town
rent the
vehicle.
Hmm?
Oh,
Yeah, I would propose that this would be a town vehicle, so available to any department for use. Of course, it benefits Parks and Recreation, but it would benefit the library if they wanted to take it. It would benefit,
So it doesn't generate any income?
No,
No.
not unless we, if we
You rent
wanted
it
it
out.
to. If we
Yeah.
wanted it to, but I mean, if we're proposing it and it, went through and the taxpayer said, yes, spend the money, purchase a vehicle, to go above and beyond and charge them to use that vehicle, I think is getting them at both angles, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Nicole, you're proposing a CRF for this. Does Recreation own a van currently, or are you also proposing that they purchase a van?
I am proposing that we purchase a van, we do not currently own a
Okay.
van, yes.
So this would just be, the CRF is for the replacement of this van in 10 years, you're projecting or whatever,
Yeah,
if the budget committee decides to include
right,
it. Okay.
if we purchase the van, then in 10 years, we would need to
Need to
replace it.
replace it, okay.
This is probably a tough question, but over the last year, how many opportunities would there have been to use a 10-passenger van? Because I know if people use their own car, you get reimbursed mileage, correct?
Oh, for like
So-
staff trainings?
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and if you have 2 or 3 people going to a seminar, you really don't need a 10-passenger van, it'd be,
You may
Much more
not, but it
effective.
may be safer transportation than taking your own vehicle, or, you know, looking at insurance wise.
For using your own vehicle, correct? I think, aren't we?
Mileage.
Mileage, yeah, on
Mileage.
town employee up for.
Yeah, you get
for a
mileage, yeah.
vehicle. But how many trips did you guess last year we could have employed a
I don't know, I
10
think-
van?
I don't know if you would have a better idea. I know I went to 2 conferences.
Yeah, I mean, highway department uses it to go to training, or could use it to go to trainings, or they could take their own vehicle or take a pickup truck, depending on the number of people that may go.
Oh, yeah.
In Waltonboro, we had a 7-passenger caravan that they purchased as a fleet, what we call it, we always call it a fleet vehicle. Recreation did use it the most because of their programming, but other departments, such as the fire department, they utilized it. They send people off to Firefighter 1 or one of these other trainings, and they have to take all the gear and stuff with them, and they used to allow them to utilize the van in order to go to the training. Police department had the opportunity to use it if in fact their cruisers were all tied up and they needed another vehicle to get to court or to go to a training session, and they could utilize the vehicle as well, or they could opt out and take the mileage route on that side of it there. So I think in this situation like Nicole's talking about, where probably the greatest benefit is for the programming aspect of things, that if you decide to do something with the youth and also with older, as our population is an aging population, and senior programs and things of that nature. I mean, people pay a fee in order to go generally on those programs, of course. So if they go to the flower show, for an example, they pay a fee to go in, and then generally there's a business plan that basically lays out what the expenses are for the trip. And that basically kind of dictates what the cost will be to those people that want to participate. And I know in the past, other communities have built in a transportation cost. So if in fact it was having to take the school bus from Governor Wentworth, or rent a van from Enterprise, or utilize a town vehicle that was purchased, there's still a cost that's attributed in all aspects on that situation there.
My big fear is I don't know how much it's gonna get used. Why buy a 10-passenger van when you really are just conjecturing we'll take all these trips? I just question the need.
Did you hear what she
for that
read?
vehicle.
Did you hear what she read about the trips for the children, for the summer trips and everything else? She just
Yeah.
read.
Oh,
how many
those come to
trips there will be.
fruition.
They're already happening. I did 10
Well, that's
trips
why I
this
asked, how
summer.
many
Yeah.
trips do we take now?
Yeah, this summer we did 10 trips. We typically do a trip during vacation weeks as well. And this fall I am starting monthly trips for adults and for youth.
Oh.
So, projecting forward, I know that I would certainly be using this for Parks and Recreation. I see all the added benefits for the library. I talked to the library, they said they would use it. There are
Could
other
you-
benefits for it.
Could you do, or me or us a favor?
Yeah.
You've kind of outlined what you'll use this for, and I appreciate that. Could you possibly check with the library, check with police, fire, and highway to see when they might use it? And that would give us a better idea
Yeah,
of
for
making this a,
Yeah, for elderly programs too, because the library doesn't have very many elderly programs. You mentioned the flower show, that would be a great.
Right,
yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
we're
That'd be a
starting.
great
Yeah, we're starting
opportunity.
things like that, yeah.
it might help
Those
expand
things happen,
this
yeah.
and help
They do
this
have
issue
it.
get passed. So it's for, like you mentioned and Scott mentioned, it would be a town vehicle. You'd be in charge of having first dibs, I guess. But if other departments would use this also, then it becomes a bigger issue than just Parks and Rec. It becomes a true town vehicle.
Right.
And if we could get the numbers on that, I think that would help us out a lot. You get with Kathy over at the library and just see the events that she could come up with, or maybe even doing now, or possibly new events because we have this vehicle for our residents. This would not be a bad idea if we can show a true usage of it, and so forth.
Yeah, genuine need.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to see
with departments
projected usage.
across the town.
Because they're great ideas. I mean,
Yeah.
they offer very little things to the elderly in this
Yeah.
town.
Right.
So-
I mean, it looks like we've restricted ourselves a little bit on some of the things we could do if we have this, and a lot of departments can use it. And it increases the number of events that the residents can go to it.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
this might work, but I think we might need a little bit more, at least I would, a little bit more information from the other departments.
Okay.
Would they ever use it, how they would use it, and how many times they would use it? And if they do have this vehicle, could they do more for the residents?
Okay.
Yeah, so could you do that?
Yeah.
For example, could or would recreation use this for summer swimming? To take children from either the summer program that you have to swimming lessons, or for children in town to use it? Could that be one of the uses?
Yeah, that could be a possibility. I mean, certainly with the summer program, you're limited in how often you can leave the location, because we would have to rent a vehicle to go just to use the town beach, which is a free resource that we could use, but you know, we don't have a vehicle to be able to do that, so we'd have to rent, and in order to rent, we'd have to increase, you know, the prices or charge for that. So yeah, we could definitely use it for the summer program, for swim lessons.
Yeah, if you could,
Yeah.
And you might want to check to see, well, we have insurance for the town, so that might cover the
Yeah.
liability, but the driver, is there, since it's becoming a commercial vehicle, do you need a commercial license for that?
Your insurance coverage that you have here, as long as they're a town employee, and that covers.
So as long as they're a town employee, we're fine with it, they don't need a commercial license, they can have a regular
I
license.
believe that, we'll have to double check on the passenger number, but I believe it is more than 12
Yeah, I think so.
passengers, then you're required to have and it's not that difficult to have,
CDL.
it's not a CDL, but it's a carrying, like a limousine driver would have to have as far as, like
Passenger
school bus
endorsement.
passenger endorsement
Mhm.
on their license for that. I believe the cutoff, we did the research before, because had looked at those small, like mini coach type buses, where
Right.
you're buying one of those in Marlboro, a small, mid-sized ones, they could get close to, I think, close to 20 on one of those, I think.
Mhm.
And they were looking at buying a used one, so that was a little bit more cumbersome, because the staff would have to go get that endorsement on their license.
So we'll add that to something when you come back to us, that might be another thing we need to know.
I think the numbers that Nicole has here relative to the mileages and things of that nature, that's pretty much what I've seen over the last 7 years, actually 6 years. Bought the fleet van from Marlboro in 2010, and basically the mileages have been about those numbers, give or take. I'm trying to remember exactly what the van might have for mileage on it now. It had been projected to be traded at 7 years, and this past year, when I recommended to CIP, I recommended that they extend it out to 10 years because of the mileage. So,
Okay.
Okay,
So, yeah, if we could get those numbers, that'd be great.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
we'll go along.
yeah,
with it.
right, that was my concern, I'd like to see projected usage, actual data, planned trips, et cetera. It's a good idea if it's used properly.
If it's used,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great
If it's-
idea.
if it's sitting there
It's
80% of the
utilized.
time, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, any further discussion on this?
She has part two.
Yes, so the second proposal, Parks and Recreation Department would like to propose a CIP request for the purchase of equipment for a natural playground at the Durham ball field. Currently, the ball fields host a small playground which includes a slide structure, monkey bar structure, swing set, and roundabout. The swing set and roundabout will need to be replaced or removed in the next few years. Recreation is proposing to update the playground with more natural play features to improve upon the number of offered activities at the location, while also maintaining the integrity and beauty of the natural space. Recreation is proposing a natural playground instead of a traditional playground, the plastic metal structures you often see, for several reasons, including natural playgrounds better mirror and enhance the natural beauty of the space they are in, allowing users to appreciate the world around them. Natural playgrounds can adapt more easily to the natural makeup of the location instead of having to flatten a hill or remove a tree at additional costs. Natural playground equipment needs smaller areas of fall materials, sand, wood chips, or rubber, which saves on cost over time. New Durham Elementary School.
I'm gonna interrupt you one
Yeah.
second. Do you have that here for us, what you're reading?
Yeah, it's included in the packet.
Yeah, it's right in the front.
It's the second, yeah, right behind the data, yeah.
Yep, right
Yeah.
there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. New Durham Elementary School hosts a traditional playground which is available to the public. This natural playground will offer a unique experience for residents not otherwise available to them. By choosing a natural playground, there is a focus on encouraging kids to discover new things about themselves and the outdoors through experimentation, problem solving, manipulation, observation, and physical challenges. This proposal includes the cost of several different play structures. I said see included materials for descriptions, but I did forget to print that off. I can get that to you. It is estimated that the structures will last 10+ years depending on the structure. This proposed cost does not include cost of installation. All play structures are sent with installation directions. Recreation proposes to ask for volunteer assistance to help install the various play structures to save on overall cost to the taxpayers. Additionally, Recreation will pursue donation and grant money to add other natural elements to the playground, such as fruit trees, shrubs, and other natural elements. So if you're unaware of what a natural playground is, because I assume that some people might not know, the last page of the printout is an example natural playground. And essentially it's just using the features of the natural surroundings to add in the play equipment. So, you know, adding a climbing wall into a hill, which saves on having people climb on the other side, sort of built right into the hill, having a slide structure come off the hill. What that does is increase safety, because now kids are not climbing up a 5 or 10 foot high ladder. Additionally, it allows kids who are afraid of climbing that ladder to go down that slide to just climb up the hill. So it's utilizing the space as is and just adding structures in. So that's kind of an example one. So right now, yes,
Have you seen one of these then?
yes, yeah, they're pretty remarkable.
What would be the
for
closest
kids.
one that I could view, or I could look at?
You know, there is one up at Squam Lakes, at the Squam Lake Science Center, if you ever
Squam
go
Lake.
up there. Yeah, they have a play structure outside.
Okay.
You need less, so I mentioned in that proposal that you need less fall material. The fall material is anything around the structures, like the climbing wall in the middle. There's, you know, sand or wood chips right there in case a child falls, and it lessens the impact of that fall. On a traditional big playground, you have to have that fall material all around a huge space. So it's pretty costly to have to replace that over time. And additionally, you're just kind of using your space. You don't have to flatten anything out. You don't have to remove trees unless they're a danger, if they're, you know, old or dying. And it just increases the beauty of the space instead of taking away from it, because it's not plastic or metal, it's wood, made out of wood. So that's what we would be proposing for a playground down at the ball field.
And this is what you have now, this picture here?
Yeah, so the pictures before that are what we have now. It's near the basketball court.
And how many kids use that now? Do you have any idea? Or?
Oh, I mean, it's open to the public, so lots of kids use it when there's sports going on, if there's baseball or softball, because all the younger or older siblings will be over there using it. Soccer season's coming up, so we'll be hosting soccer games every Saturday for 8 weeks, and so all their siblings or the kids in between games will be playing on what we have for the playground down there, so, yeah.
Did you arrive at a cost?
Well,
Yeah,
it's-
so
It's right here.
we're proposing $15,000 to purchase the equipment. So that would be purchasing, I had a list and I meant to print it, I didn't print.
What about
But
the topography, to change the topography? Would
we
get
wouldn't change the topography. That's kind of a plus to having a natural playscape. You buy equipment that will fit what you already have there. So we have a hill that slopes down to the lower ball field. That would be a place where you could put the climbing wall, for example.
Yeah, I've
or
never
put a slide.
seen the ball field, so
Yeah.
I'm at a disadvantage here.
Yeah,
Should've been,
and
been
you
there.
know, the pictures, they show what we have there, but without kind of, you know, the overall concept. You don't see where everything else is in. in correspondence to it, so, yeah.
So there wouldn't be any, you wouldn't change the topography, you wouldn't
No, I wouldn't
No,
be
that's the
proposing
point.
that we flatten anything or do anything like that, no.
Okay.
And that's that saves on cost of installation, and again, we would not be proposing, that we would hire someone to put this in, we could, but that would increase our cost. Just in Milton, which is the town that I live in, they just put in a traditional, playground last year, and it was $68,000 to put in.
What
and
town was that?
It didn't
You're
include
saying, the town you lived in?
Milton.
Milton.
And it didn't include any labor either, that it was just the equipment, a traditional, and they had all volunteers as well as, people at the, town departments like the highway, they donated their time to come and help. So that saved on costs.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
I just have had, I'll make one more public request that the roundabout be taken down.
Yes, that is,
I think that's
the
very
round,
dangerous.
right, the roundabout and the swing set are going to have to come out anyway.
Yeah,
And that will leave us with, just a simple, I think they're in the pictures, a simple slide structure. It's a small one, so it's really for like young kids, I would say first grade and younger. Yeah, it's just a small.
It's old and rusty.
We don't really have a lot
dangerous.
going on at the playground right now. So it'll leave us with that and then the monkey bars, which are on the other side of the basketball courts.
They're in good shape.
Yeah, the monkey bars
Because I go there
and,
often with my grandchildren.
yeah,
They're
the
in good
monkey
shape.
bars are in good shape, the little slide is in good shape, but the roundabout and the swing set will need to come out. And so, I mean, looking ahead, we could propose to do a traditional playground, but I think a natural playscape makes more sense in New Durham. A lot of talk in the planning board meetings for the master plan have been about making sure that we enhance and we support the preservation of our natural resources. A natural playground would do that at the ball fields instead of taking away from it.
And what do you have in this picture? What do you have
Oh, okay.
underneath
So-
that
Right, so
jungle
this-
gym? What do you call that, jungle gym?
So yeah, this is, I mean, it's like a jungle gym, it's the
Right.
monkey bars.
What's
This is the
below that?
basketball
Just
court.
dirt?
Sand,
Sand.
yeah.
So they have a soft area if they fall.
Right, yeah.
Now,
So
would
you
you-
can do sand, wood chip, the school has wood chips.
Well, that's what I was
Some
gonna
people
ask
do
you.
Rubber, yeah, so, but.
Which
rubber-
would you stay with, the sand or wood chips?
I would propose staying with sand.
Okay. Now, are the kids allowed to use the one at the school?
Yes, it is open to the public, not during the day when school's in session, I believe. I would imagine that you can't be on school property when school's in session, yeah.
Okay. But any other time they allow you on weekends to be at the
Yeah,
school?
you can go over in the summer.
Does that
yeah.
compete with the?
So this is another reason why I would propose doing a natural playground instead of a traditional one, is that we have a traditional one here in town at the
Okay.
school. This is different,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
And the 15,000, how did you come up with that number?
So I actually have a list of the play equipment that I noted we would want to purchase for the playground, and I forgot to print it, that's why I don't
Is
have it.
that-
I will send it to you
Oh,
guys.
okay. It's
And
not
that's
in
how I
here.
came to the 15,000, it's about that cost for
Okay.
purchasing.
But you'll get that to
equipment.
us?
Yes.
Good,
yeah,
good, good.
Yeah.
How much did you say the traditional playground that they put in Milton cost? Just for the equipment?
So the one in Milton, is down at the town beach, it costs 68,000 plus, for the equipment itself. Now, it does last 20 years, but even so, over time, you're looking at $3,000 plus per year, to replace it, in the next 20 years. This, over 10 years would be 1,500.
A year.
So, yeah, so it is, I mean, even if you have to replace it a little sooner, it is cheaper in the long run.
It's also environmentally more friendly. It's really kind of in sync with our walking path. I mean, our
Yeah.
focus down there is appreciating nature.
Right.
Well, I appreciate you thinking out of the box here.
Yeah, I like your presentation, there's a lot of detail, which we don't get very often, so I
Oh,
congratulate
okay.
you on that.
This is the first time
Usually
I've
we're
ever done it, so I
making
was
an
a little
awful lot of
nervous.
assumptions,
Job well
and
done.
you did a great job.
Good, thank
I
you.
commend you.
Thank you.
Do we have any further discussion on this?
So you know what to get us then.
Yeah, so I'll get you the list of the equipment that I propose, yeah.
And
And
do the different departments, the usage
Oh,
of
for the
it.
town
Yeah,
vehicle,
projected
absolutely, yeah,
usage.
put down all the notes.
That's a key one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And then if
Oh, just one other stipulation on the van, if you
Yeah.
don't have a group over, say, 4 or 5 people, then the van wouldn't be used for any trips, correct? I mean, it's used for larger groups, so if we had 2 people going to a seminar, they could take their own car, we'd give them mileage. I mean,
Yeah, I
how would
think we'd
that
have to
work?
figure out
You'd
whatever
have
the
to put
cost,
some
yeah.
kind of guidelines on its
Yeah.
usage.
Right.
But
Sure.
for children,
Yeah.
to take children, even if they only took 4 or 5, the rules have
Oh.
become so stringent that,
Oh.
like, parents can't drive
Because of-
kids on trips
No,
anymore.
4 or
and
5
so
is
forth.
quite a few.
So
Um,
it
Oh,
might
yeah,
be
if
used
it's a
with a
large enough
driver
group.
who has.
Yeah, oh, I have no problem.
Yeah,
with
it'll
that.
probably depend as well on what, if you're, if you're looking at covering a certain cost for use of the
Yeah.
vehicle, if you have 5 people, is it cost effective to split that
Right,
cost
right.
amongst the 5?
And that's not
Yeah.
done very often, so yeah.
Right.
Is it cost effective, is there a cheaper way to do it?
Right.
Exactly, good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. No further discussion? All right, good. Good presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
All right. The big one, Public Works.
Big one,
The big one.
Big one.
How are we all tonight?
We're good. Hey, did you have relatives that were impacted in West Virginia?
Sure did.
Where? What? I was down there for FEMA. I found this for over a month.
Rupert,
Yeah. Yeah.
actually went down.
Rupert Raynell. I actually went with
yeah.
Senator Manchin, who's now famous for this drug thing. His daughter, his aide, and
My grandfather was the mayor for 49 years. in
yeah, I was
Rupert.
pretty heavily impacted. He took me on a really good tour. You know what I was impressed? Excuse the digression, but the coal industry, the people that ran the coal industry, and coal is a dirty word. You don't say that to environmentalists, but
Yes, you do.
not really. If you lived in West Virginia, you'd realize
Oh, but
that
times
because
have
they
changed.
suffered so much because the coal industry was in, but they did a lot of the work for nothing. They volunteered their services to dredge out the rivers, replace part of the road. It wasn't the state of West Virginia, it was the coal industry, especially in Rupert and Raynell, right around there.
Yeah, a lot of the railroads
Yeah.
stepped into it.
Yep.
It's pretty
Yeah, I
phenomenal.
was impressed with that.
Yeah, but,
So,
luckily, I didn't lose any family and lost some
well, that's good.
friends, but
Yeah.
family friends.
That was some of the worst flooding I've ever seen. I've been with the
I-
agency for 20 years, and West Virginia is such a poor state. To see people with so little lose everything,
Almost.
it was,
Probably
it
so poor they can't pay
impacted.
attention sometimes.
Pardon?
They're so poor sometimes they can't pay attention.
Yeah, at 40 feet, I talked to 2 people, elderly couple, they were in the 70s, spent 2.5 days on the top of on their roof because the water kept coming up. Went to the 2nd floor. She said the days, nights, she said the days weren't too bad, the nights were tough. But I can't imagine somebody almost 80 years of age spending 2 nights on a
My
roof.
grandparents are 92 and 94, so they just celebrated 70 years of marriage, so.
Unbelievable.
Hey, it's tough down there, they make it
It
work.
was.
Don't call them the Mountaineer State for nothing, huh?
Pardon?
Don't call them Mountaineers for nothing.
No, that's a tough group of people. They really were resilient.
Sure. So I'm sure you guys have some questions. The first thing I'd like to go over is that you'll see in our CIP sheet that this year coming up, we're gonna have our 04 International to be replaced. That's gonna be coming up next year to be replaced in 2017.
We removed that 2 or 3 years ago out of the rotation so that we could start contracting some of the winter
Well,
trucks.
This is what I have here for 2016, Tony. That was issued to
Well,
me.
yeah, but if you look back 2 years, we took the 2004 out.
The
Of
international.
rotation, the international. We did that intentionally, because remember the data I showed you about how
I sure did, and I
Gilmington-
studied it very well,
Yeah,
sir.
how Gilmington gets by under $10,000
We're not
a
Gilmington,
year.
no. We're not
We're up to
Gilmington, no, Tony.
16, yeah,
So
so, No, I mean,
let's stick with what we got going on here. Your data is great. Don't get me wrong,
and I think we can learn from it, yeah,
I did. I learned a lot from it.
good.
My suggestion is that stays in the rotation. I strongly advise that. and compared to our numbers that what we have. Our Freightliner is currently cost us about $50,000 and it's an 08 in comparison to an 04 that's cost $17,000.
Well, because, you mean it cost us recently $50,000?
That's what it's cost us to maintain that vehicle.
And I know it was 25 in this last year, 25,000.
But wasn't that a maintenance issue?
That's just maintenance.
No, but I mean, if maintenance was done, you'd think you'd still put 50,000 into it? I mean, I know you weren't here.
Tony, I wasn't here
Yeah,
for
I know,
that, but
no,
I'm pulling the numbers and I'm telling you that's pretty astronomical to me.
Yeah, it is. That's why we shouldn't own trucks. Let somebody else own them, we'll
That's not
contract.
comical to me.
Well, it's
At
a
all.
lot cheaper, Mike.
No, it's not. No, it's not. That's for another conversation for you and I.
All right.
And I would be more than glad to sit with you anytime you would like to schedule with me. And I would sit down and
Well, show me some data.
Oh, I got all kinds of it, but I don't think that's the forum for it here. I'm not going to. The forum for it is for recommendations. And from what I can understand, my previous CIP experience, that's what you guys are here for.
Right.
It's to rank
But
them.
we've done this.
And it's
we've
it's for you
visited
to
this
rank
one.
them. It's not to give me a recommendation of what you feel I should go with.
All right.
I'm not trying to be, I'm just being straightforward. That's the purpose. I don't feel that you should get rid of that truck at all. If anything, I would get rid of the Freightliner before I would get rid of an International.
Is that the 08 you're saying, the 4x4? Okay.
What kind of condition is that in right now?
The Freightliner or the International?
Well, the Freightliner, it's the one that's costing us, you're saying now, up to
It's
50
like the
grand?
Titanic. It just keeps on taking on water, and it's a hole.
Sinking.
That's the 04, not the one you're talking
The
about?
08, it's the Freightliner.
All right, the Freightliner.
Yeah, that's the
That's
thing
the
that's
one
costing us a lot. And does it look like it's gonna continue out that way?
It's always in the shop, and it's just, I'm not a fan of a Freightliner
Okay.
myself. I've always been a fan of International.
Right,
And that's what most of our fleet is International.
okay.
So I would recommend keeping towards an International and making your fleet that for parts wise, service wise, it's more feasible to have all of the same brand, and it's a reputable brand.
Right. Let's go back real quick here. We have the first one, the 01 GMC pickup truck. That
is not
has,
to be replaced, that has been taken off the
Yeah,
schedule.
that's zeroed out.
is it still around or is it physically
Yeah,
off?
it
the
actually
schedule?
passed inspection this year.
It did pass?
Sure did.
So we're just using that as a backup truck now?
Well, until she decides to go
Die.
on to GMC Avenue.
Okay, but we won't replace that, correct?
No,
Okay, and then we're down to the 04 International, which you're saying is coming up. Now, what kind of condition is that in?
that truck's, that's a strong truck right there. That's-
Could it go through to 2017, 2018, you think?
Yeah, I believe it could, very well,
Okay,
yeah.
so we could,
Which one did you say, sorry, which one was that that you said?
we're at the
I don't have a list, so.
the 04 International.
Okay.
7,400, something.
So you're comfortable with that? That could last a couple more
Absolutely.
years at least?
Yeah, I've been around and crawled in that machine, and that truck, and it's a strong truck.
So we could push out that 180 from 2017, we could push it out to 2019, 2020?
That would be my recommendation.
To-
But then again, looking off different plans from what Mr. Vanales told me, that is not happening anymore.
Well, let's look at that right now. So if you push that to 2019 or 2020, you think it'd last that long, or
I think we could get another 4 years out of that truck, I really do.
4 years? So 17, 18,
I think we
19,
could get up there too,
and 20?
I believe so.
Okay. So what we'll do is put 180 in 2020 with a question mark. Okay, so that takes that off the table. Okay, then going to the 08 Freightliner, I think everybody's in agreement, we should just try to sell that then, or what would you do with
Yeah,
that?
either that or trade it in towards the International.
What would you get in trade-in for something like that?
It's something we'd have to look at. I mean, we could always call,
Guess.
call Freightliner and have them come on down and take a look at it and see what they would give for it. You know,
What's the Freightliner used now for?
it's our water truck and we plow it.
Okay,
So you're recommending replacing that, not eliminating it, replacing it. Am I correct? Okay.
Yeah. Take away the GMC, that leaves us with one spare.
Yeah. Okay.
And And I think in the wintertime, that's a pretty important piece to have.
So the Freightliner, the 4x4, it's a smaller vehicle then, right?
No, that's actually one of our big trucks.
That's the big truck.
Yeah.
What's the tonnage on that?
It's at 33 GVW, I believe,
33, probably 40, close to 40.
with a tank, with a full drive.
But we really, do we use that water tank at all anymore?
Yeah, for every road we grade. Yeah. You have to wet it.
So
It's
if,
better compaction, it's better for grading.
So I haven't seen it this summer.
I think probably when we were down your way on Meterboro, it was
Yeah.
probably getting the work done, but we do use it for,
Okay, so it was,
Most roads we work, yeah.
it was in the shop.
yeah.
That's why it wasn't
Couldn't you
done.
put a water tank in back of one of the regular dump trucks that has a dump body, enough to wet road for grading? You don't need a dedicated truck for wet road.
No, it's not for work, it's not dedicated for that though.
Well, pretty much all year
No,
long,
it's not.
except for plowing.
You're going somewhere that it doesn't need to go. I'm telling you right now.
I mean,
No, you mean what?
what else
You
do
tell
they
me.
do? Well, no, but what else do you do?
I've
with
gone
it?
up and done my homework. All you've done is presented
No,
numbers to me that I found
what else do you do
extremely
with
amount
it?
of flaws with.
Besides
Extreme amount of
water,
flaws with.
gravel, and.
You're not
plow.
hearing me now.
I am.
Your,
You said it, you plow
your
with it?
info is
Yeah.
extremely flawed.
Let me interrupt. I'd like, maybe both of us meet with you at some point in time and
Absolutely.
go over the numbers. You're the
I
expert
do,
in
I
this.
think
and
I'd like to have
Tony's done a
Scott
lot of
do that.
research. If we could do that, I think it'd be helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a question then. So, with the 04 International, you're saying you could push that out to 2020, and you'd like to replace the 08 Freightliner, which was scheduled for replacement in 2020. Should we move that one back to 2000? In other words, just flip those two?
Yeah.
Is that what you
I would
recommend?
like to get rid of the
Okay.
Freightliner and buy an International.
Okay.
And then when the 04 comes up, we would replace that one.
Okay. So you recommend an International. That makes sense to keep it all.
Okay, so I have question marks on this. Okay. So now we're at the 2011 International 7400. That you have
What happened to
way
the
out
lab?
to 2023?
Mhm.
Okay. And then you have the 2012 F350,
Yep.
and that's out to 22?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the 13 International again, out to 2025. Now, when I say this, you've looked at these and you're comfortable with these projections?
At this moment, yeah.
Okay, because these projections
Before.
weren't yours, they were someone else's.
No,
But
looking at
you're,
these, I mean, I know from my experience in fleet, you should be able to get that out of these
so you're comfortable with
with the right maintenance. I've been here since April.
okay.
I know
How
I'm
many
pretty
miles
cheap.
on this one that you're projecting 2025?
I can get that.
On which one?
That's a 13,
Yeah.
International.
The 2013 International, I don't have. I can get you the hours on that.
Okay, when we all sit down together, that would be
Sure.
helpful on the mileage.
Absolutely.
I know that, you know, the fire department, we discussed, queried them about the mileage in the fire trucks, but they're different. They're miles that, you know, they're hard miles.
So can I ask a question, then why aren't we all sitting down for this information? I mean, why would we have
I
two
would
members
recommend
of the
it.
CIP
Well, we
committee
can.
sitting
One
down?
person.
I would be happy to sit down and listen to all of this information also.
I mean, I'm going based off things that I've seen that are edited and approved by the CIP from last year with in regards to grading or where it's a proven fact that it's.
No, that was something that Mike presented, I don't think at the meeting, but it never was approved. It was just submitted as data, like, it was never approved. The
Okay.
use of the grader, yeah, that was, those numbers were never justified, we just got lumped.
I don't know if we want to go there now because, I mean, I don't agree with having our grader or loader not funded anymore either. I
On
think
the
that's-
grader,
I think that's a huge mistake.
I did notice you put them back in rotation.
Well, I spoke with Administrator Kidman and we both thought it was in best interest for the town.
The aspects of putting them back on, just so you understand how the process goes, is you have capital, these are all capital assets. So if you have a capital asset, it remains on your schedule until at the point in time in which you actually trade it, sell it, decommission it, or otherwise. Whether you choose and/or the Board of Selectmen chooses to fund it and what the funding mechanism is, that's part of this process. And the process is that really on each individual item that comes up is to score it by a scoring matrix as to whether or not it is something that is worthy of continuing to fund. And it may be, Tony has an idea in regards to privatization. Has it been established here? Has it been proven here yet? He has figures, Mike's done some research, and he has some figures. They haven't had a chance to even compare their notes to one another in that situation there. But it's still a capital asset, fairly substantial one, just like all the buildings are, that you own here too. We don't just say that we're gonna take them off the schedule. They haven't burned down, they haven't been crushed up and put in a dumpster and hauled away, so they're still a capital asset. So each individual item as it comes up actually gets scored and put into a priority matrix. And then you look at how much money you've spent over the past few years in actually trying to fund those. Now, in this matrix, it's amortized out based upon the life cycle of the vehicles themselves. But we've had conversation about leasing vehicles and such, which would mean that maybe you do not need to allocate funds into certain capital reserve funds if in fact you're going to look at doing lease purchasing or bonding or things of that nature relative to some equipment. And I hope to have those figures for you. I wanted to have them tonight where I used an example of a plow truck for an example, and then I used another example of the ladder truck. So kind of two substantial items, but low end of the spectrum, high end of the spectrum. So at least you could see what those annual amounts would be.
Now, let me interrupt.
Yeah.
What was the cost of the grader? You weren't here then. I remember it was voted on at town meeting, and I said to myself, town this impoverished can afford a $500,000 piece of equipment when this could be contract. And I see subcontractors
Right.
all over the country. All over the country.
Only 10 miles of
All right?
gravel road, yeah.
Yeah, and, I'm still not convinced. I mean, I'm open to suggestions, and,
It's not
my
just used
personal
for gravel
opinion.
roads though, it's used for ditching, it's,
Pardon?
you know this. I'm not telling you something you don't know, Tony.
But
That you don't know this isn't used for ditching, it's a lot faster, it's accurate.
there's federal equipment for ditching.
There is more time consuming, so when you contract that out and you have a contractor come in,
Yeah.
you're gonna pay out your ass. Yes, you
Show
will.
me the data, Mike. Show me the data. Everybody gives me the generalities. It's
You know what,
gonna
you
cost
haven't
more to
gone out and got
contract.
any data though.
I
You
present
haven't-
data.
Have you gone to one contractor besides the guy in Brentwood for $125,000?
I don't think it does any
Yeah.
good for us to.
No, we
No.
I haven't
yeah.
seen anything from you that you
That's the
have.
next thing.
You've
Yeah.
gone to the state,
Yeah, we-
and they won't even talk to us now after you've heckled them so much. I didn't heckle them. I was just asking for
All
data.
right, let's.
So now we're at
Let's continue down the
we're at
list.
the 2015 Dodge 5500, which you just purchased. That you've got going out well beyond 2026, right?
You laugh, but it's true, it's not.
Wait, we're moving on. So we're at the 2015 Dodge 5500. That's the last one, at least on my. And how far out is that? Obviously, it's beyond
It's brand new.
2026, so where do you think that's at then?
Well, it will go off the
27.
chart, it'll have to
Right.
come on next year for 2027.
Is that the replacement time,
Yeah,
you
that's
think?
when it'll go. That's when.
You're
see
saying
now it's
2017?
2015, It's at 12 years.
2027.
So it's not even on our chart now.
No, I understand that.
So next year it'll have to come on for 2027, and I think that would be valid for that.
You think by then,
27?
it might not carry on a couple more years? You think that's a target
I
date?
mean, I wish I had magic
Crystal balls, yeah.
Yeah, Selectman Anthony's, but I don't. I think that's a valid number.
So we're looking at 2017 on that one.
2027.
2027.
27.
Yeah.
2027.
Yeah,
Mike,
2017.
could I just,
2027.
Okay,
20.
all right. Okay, and then, and we're looking at, let's see, that would be, well, if we replace that tit for a tat, and it's gonna be different than $88,000. But, okay, here's where I'm at on this, and we talked about this, actually, it was brought up with the fire department and so forth, and I think we can put this in here. And we actually did it on the grader. We set money aside for the grader, but what we actually ended up doing with the grader was a lease program. And it's my understanding, if I understood the discussion the other day, was you can put so much down, but you can't use that money for the leasing part of it. That has to come from general fund or wherever it may come. And so it does relieve a little bit of putting this large amount of monies now, where you can take a little bit for it for the down payment, and then during the years that you lease it, that money will come out of general fund or whatever. I think that's fine, and that's the direction we should go. The discussion on the grader was it should last another 10 years if we maintain it properly. We were thinking about two things. One is trying to surface more roads. The 11 miles, we're a little under 11 miles now of dirt roads. During that 10-year period, look into, and we're going to have that study next month. Did you drive with that fellow?
He hasn't come out yet.
Okay, he has
Coming
now.
up for this month.
And he's going to give us an idea of what it's going to cost, what areas, and the cost of paving the dirt roads. Okay, once we get to that, start adding that into this 10-year program, then to me, it comes more feasible to rent a grader, either if we have an employee like Matt that can do it, or if it comes with a driver. And I know last year our grader was down during the winter, and they were pushing snow, 2 years ago, I'm sorry. Last year was a very mild winter. 2 years ago when we had a serious snow, our grader was down. So they went out and rented a grader. And if I recall, it was $120 an hour with the operator to push back some of these snow banks. And so we actually did the renting for that piece of equipment. I think that's where some of us are as far as in a 10-year program, if we can start paving some of the roads and then get into this idea of maybe renting a grader. And look at the cost of that and see where we're at. We might even have to look at then in 10 years going with the idea, if we go to, at that time, it's like when we want to buy another grader, go to what we did with the grader a couple of years ago, or 5 years ago, I guess it is now, the lease purchase program. So those are numbers I'd like to see.
Yeah, I mean, from the numbers I have, I think you guys will be pretty satisfied, and so will you, Mr. Bonanno.
Okay, do you have those numbers for us?
I can get them to you.
Okay,
I
that's
have
fine.
copies, but I have them sitting right here.
Okay, and if you don't mind getting that for the
I
board.
have a question about this, if you don't mind. Could you back up, because we skipped over it, to the, no, we did the 09, maybe it was the 09 International. Yeah, we skipped over that one. Could you just comment on that one? Is
The
your
09
recommendation the same?
I would think so. Yeah, I mean, all of our internationals have been relatively
Okay.
very reliable.
Just wanted to check it off.
I mean,
That's
it's
all.
kind of
Okay.
the black sheep's been our Freightliner. And in my previous
Got that
experience, I can tell you in other municipalities I work for, those numbers are pretty comparable with repairs to a Freightliner.
Yeah,
It's
well,
just their design, it's just, I'm not a fan of one of them, and I think the numbers show why I'm not.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so then, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Let's see, we were pushing out the international, we were going to push out to 2020, right? The 04 International 7400?
Yeah,
You were comfortable with pushing it out to
it would
20?
be more just like a switch, I believe it was Mrs. Phillips said it.
Okay.
So-
And then to replace, yeah,
Yeah.
she's Phillips on by herself.
And that's,
Confuses.
and
Yeah.
Don't worry, they always
But
confuse us, the
it
two
was
old
an even
ladies.
swap. It was an even swap, okay.
And that's if we
Always
decided to do that. It was out of, Tony was right, we voted that out 2 years ago that we would not put that in this rotation. So that would be, in my mind, a question mark. Okay, here's where I'm at on this. And, you know, I tried to get Mike Clark to do this, and he wouldn't do it. And I would like to see, this winter, we do some blending, in that pick up a route that's contracted out.
We've spoke with someone already in the works of that.
Okay, and you're working on the numbers on that. Now, have you talked to the two people in town that do that work?
I haven't, they wouldn't touch it.
Pardon me?
They didn't have interest.
They didn't have interest.
They didn't get into reasons why, they just said I'm all set.
That's right.
That's
Okay.
all I was told, and they didn't want to go any further with it, and I wasn't going to push that.
Was that Iron Will?
I actually got some numbers from him. With your, I'm not gonna, I have, he was willing to entertain that.
Okay.
Have I met with him yet with Administrator Committee and about a route? No, but he said he would entertain it if something was proposed his way.
And what kind of money, have
Who
you,
said that?
Iron Will? I
He
was
has a
around-
one-ton, he has a one-ton truck that he'd be, well, I believe, right, Mike?
I got a few pieces of equipment.
does he have a plow, or would he have to use ours?
No, he couldn't use ours, so it would be astronomical to hook up someone else's iron, our iron onto someone else's.
That's fine, but he has a plow in his truck. And you have that number for us. Okay. And how does that if we decide to, can we discuss this in public about the employment we have? We should wait a month.
No, you're not here to run the highway department, you're only here to look at the assets.
No, but that would.
Suggestions, that's
Just
all.
Whether or not you want to
Suggestions.
see them rank funded.
Well,
So.
well, that would make a difference in whether we fund a particular truck.
Not really. You're funding capital reserve funds for that purpose. So if in fact so in other words, you got to take the list of things here, and if you think that they're important to you, or Tony thinks they're important to him, or Ellen, or Dot, and she scores that out, and that's how it gets ranked. So when it's ranked, everything by the numbers gets ranked in priority. And then you have a certain amount of money that you can use to then see if you can fund those capital reserve accounts.
Right, I understand all that. What I'm speaking of now is, if we go ahead and start this blending, two things happen. One is, we can relieve a plowing truck, if that's not used that often during the other seasons.
As I've mentioned to.
Okay, well, I'm not done. And it also saves money on maybe a particular, a part-timer for the winter.
Staff,
Right.
right, staff reduction.
So that's a savings of individuals and a truck. And then compare that to what it's gonna cost us to hire that person for the winter, the blend, the contractor. And see how those numbers, is it worth doing?
But that's not a CIP item, that's a budget item.
Well,
So.
No.
well,
I'd
no,
recommend that.
if you're pulling a truck out,
But you're not, understand the concept. You are not, it's not your job as a CIP to discontinue, eliminate, or anything. It's you to rank what the requests are, and if you feel that the requests have no merit whatsoever,
Rank them
and
low.
the department head has put in nothing more than just a wish list, then it's up to you to sit here and say, I don't think that should be funded, and you rank it low, and other things move up.
well, okay.
So that's how.
Recommendations.
So there's
Just-
no doubt, I agree, Greg, if in fact you hire a contract truck, and Mike and I have had some
what I said.
pre-negotiations with the contractor
Right.
in regards to bringing in a big six-wheel, 35,000 GVW truck. He hasn't got one yet, but he's gonna go look and see about buying one as soon as we can give him some numbers, because we have to pay him X amount of dollars per month, whether he plows snow or not,
Right,
okay?
we need to see those numbers.
That's correct.
Right.
And he needs to see him to find out whether or not he can make
Yeah,
the
but-
capital investment to see if he wants to do it.
Right.
It's roughly about I would say between
$1,000.
$600 and $1,000 a month just to have the security of the piece of equipment, okay, that you
Right.
pay for about 6 months.
And on top of that, when he drives it.
Right, and then every time he drives it, you pay him an hourly rate
Okay.
when he does that. So I agree with you that the process would be that then you could eliminate a plow loop. The thing is that that's not an immediate item. In other words, you would always want to make sure this works and the guy's going to come back. Hopefully, you know, if he has a good relationship, he likes Mike and his staff and it works out for him and he's able to pay his bills by doing it. As a businessman, he's got to make sure that he's going to make his money. And if it works out for him and he says, hey, I'll come back and I'll sign a multi-year contract with you, that's a great thing. Then you can really start to say, okay, we don't need that truck and we can sell it and we can eliminate it.
Right, right.
But to do that and to prejudge it without even test driving it yet is premature. So it's this, the year one going into this, you really don't see, other than potentially some staff savings, any savings until, well, you'll have staff, and if you don't run that truck that is replacing the roof, you'll save on maintenance costs for this season until you can see that it's gonna work and that you can sign a contract.
Okay, so the 08 Freightliner, which has given us so much trouble, what route does it have?
Plows the mountain, the ridge,
Okay. Is that all it does
I believe so.
for the winter?
Yeah, or if there's something that is beyond the means of the other trucks, because it's four-wheel drive, it'll come over and help with that. Or if it needs, that's our heavy duty, that thing moves snow.
Okay, it would seem to, but you're saying that's a larger truck.
It's all-wheel drive.
And then the person you're talking about contracting with, what route would he have?
You'd have a different route than that one.
He would have a different route.
Yeah.
Okay, the route I'm on, which is Meterbrook Road, what truck does mine?
I believe
it's
the
that one.
all-wheel drive does
It's
all
the all-wheel
three.
drive, does all that up there.
You're up on top, you're on the
Which one is the all-wheel drive?
freight.
The Freightliner.
Okay, the Freightliner's causing so much trouble. Okay. Because, and I don't want to mean critical here, I've been here 9 years. This last winter, it was the lightest snow ever, they did the worst job I've ever seen. They literally stopped in the morning at the paved area, turned around and went back to the garage, and then from the dirt road going down Berry, and then Meterboro, it was not done until maybe a day later.
So maybe a little bit beyond CIPC.
And this was repetitively, and I guess what I'm saying is, and this goes to my next, the routes that we have you examined those routes, and can we add more miles to those routes?
I think they're pretty well balanced now. I'm still looking at them. I mean, I'm always looking to enhance our efficiencies.
Yeah, because if you did that, it would enhance efficiency, and it would allow us to make certain reductions.
Most of your routes right now are about 10 miles.
10 miles.
They're pretty well
And a
balanced.
10-mile route one way is a 20-mile route. And that's pretty commonplace. I had a couple routes that were a little bit longer than that from where in Moultonborough, there was a couple that were 12, they had one that was 16. But it all depends on the route and how long it takes you to get there.
Right.
So like for an example, we talked about efficiency, where you have Kings Highway, for an example, up that way. You have travel time, you're going up there, you're gonna plow a 4-mile route, which is 8 miles, you know, going up and back in that situation there. So you lose that efficiency because you pick your iron up and you drive, I think it's 4 or 5 miles just to get over to where you stop.
Right, and we also talked about, and you've talked about, and I don't know if you two have talked about it, and that is, what's killing us is the time leaving our garage and going over to Kings Highway in that area. The travel time is horrendous, and coming back, a lot of wasted
This year,
time.
it's gonna, and I've already forewarned Mike, and I believe I forewarned Mike, or at least Donnie, is that this is gonna be even worse now this year, as it was last winter from time to time. Because now you have the Middleton School, which is a brand new elementary school, which will help out in some ways, but last year you had multiple trips and they go to Kingswood now. So the bus now from Middleton goes to Kingswood, where before they used to always go to Farmington. So now you have that added thing, because they were calling last year every time that the bus was gonna go to check in with New Durham to find out if the road, if they were gonna be able to get over there in time
Right.
to plow their section of road. It's kind of the wayward place because it's stuck in the middle.
Right,
Now, I've asked Mike to go and meet with
that's right.
Middleton,
Have you done that?
I've
and
called him twice and I haven't heard back from him.
Okay.
and he and Rick, I think it is, haven't hitched horses yet to find out, even though previously there's been some indication that they didn't want to do that, and that's only roundabout, I have no idea. what
That they would
that's
do it, or we trade off or do something
Well,
like
the
that?
idea would be that you would do an exchange.
Right.
You know, in other words, ask them to plow that, because it's a continuation of their route, that they would continue to plow, they would plow our 4 miles.
That's right. I mean, it's supposed to have them
We-
stop, and then we gotta drive all the way
And
over
we'd
to
come
the
off
small
of,
section.
you know, Middleton Road.
Right.
at Silver Street, and then maybe plow some
That's
4
right.
miles of road in Middleton.
Well, we're running out
to-
of time on that, so maybe
Straight.
give them another call, or just drive over and say, hey, hit them down, take them to lunch. You know, I'll buy you lunch, you buy the two of you lunch, just to see if you can cut a deal with them, because I think that would be quite a savings for us. And if we can cut that deal for a long period of time, just more than 1 year, then that would maybe adjust some of these numbers we're looking at and equipment we would need. So right now, this winter, I would like to do some contracting, finally do some contracting. And also see if we can cut that deal with them over there and just see how that all shakes out. Because
I think you're
we've been
beyond
talking, wait a minute,
I think you're beyond
Swins. Swins, you're not interrupting, you're interrupting. What I've,
The object of your meeting.
what I've seen here is, we keep talking about doing contract work, but we actually never do it. And until we do the contracting work and see if it does shake out for us or not, it's not fair, you know, on us to figure out what we need to do, and what we need to do is plan on in the future. So,
You have to find
this
people that
is,
want a contract.
this is
That's
really
the
my
problem.
concern, to get this done and finally do this and see where it shakes out.
Yeah, it's not viable until you have something to compare it to. It may be worthless, may not work at all, but you do need something to compare it to.
Right.
If you can't get, there's gotta be somebody. You say there's nobody that'll do it, maybe there isn't any, but at
Well,
at
you used
least
the
look.
contract plow truck up in your previous job up in,
Oh, you
well, it
used-
worked out well.
You have to get people who
They
come
used to-
and
they
want
used
to
a lot.
do
Yeah.
have the contract.
We
We
used to
haven't
have-
had that.
Gilmanton only has one plow truck, they got 70 miles of road, and they contract 5 plow trucks, and their road cost is under $10,000 a mile a year, because
Then
they're
maybe
looking
you need
at
to get those
cost-effective work.
contractors to come here and work for
We
us,
can do
because
it,
they're not
if
coming.
somebody
Yeah,
will recruit and.
You know, Tony and I
really,
talked about this, and
Yeah.
I think that's
Everybody's
great that
doing
they've been able to do it.
We've
I was
asked
able to do it where I
contractors
was
to do
because I had a large pool of those people. I mean, because of the dynamics of the demographic and makeup of businesses in our community of Molten Borough, because we had a large number of landscape companies, they had that type of equipment, that's the type of equipment I needed.
Right,
In New Durham, you do not need a bunch of one-ton pickup trucks.
Right.
Plowing your roads.
Right.
You have a well-established road system, most of it being paved, which is a good thing, with the exception of your 11 miles. But your 11 miles of dirt, I would estimate that approximately 50% of that is probably heavily traveled dirt. I don't know what that section on Middleton Road is, what the mileage is. 3 miles of gravel over there is like an interstate. They grade that one day, and within 5 days, they gotta grade it again because of the traffic.
yeah.
I avoid that.
You know, it just. it gets-
Well,
it
also-
keeps-
If you look at it paving them,
Yeah, also the Barry
I mean, it needs to be graded.
Meterboro is a
Nobody's been
school.
over there, it ought to go get graded, because if it rains right now, it's gonna wash the rocks
Yeah.
right down the middle.
Well, the concern I also have is the Barry and Meterboro is a school route. And so we really, that's kind of, I guess, some of the number one issues when you go out to plow. You want to do the school routes first.
Yeah.
Can you say that
And-
they've listened to all the trucks that need to be looked at by the CIP, and that this is a selectmen issue and a budget committee issue that you're talking about, Mr.
No,
Chairman?
it's all tied in together.
I think the
it's been
philosophy is there that
explained.
we understand, I think everybody has marching orders that
Yeah.
way. the real focus really needs to be is,
Do we need the equipment, right? I mean, can we cost justify it? Isn't that what a budget committee is supposed to do? Say,
This is a
more
CIP.
cost-effective ways to,
This is not a budget committee.
This is a CIP.
Well, no, I mean-
You just said it.
Yeah, but you have to justify the cost.
You have to
I mean,
justify
But didn't
I mean,
Mis-
that-
didn't
that's-
Mr. Kinman
Otherwise, it's pointless
explain?
to have a CIP
Yeah, why even
committee.
have
You
a
don't even have
CIP?
it,
Or can
yeah.
I speak for a minute? Didn't Mr. Kinman explain very clearly why we have this schedule? And until you make those decisions that you've been talking about, those things stay on the schedule. All we're looking at is how we're gonna prioritize those, what we think is important and what we think is less important. That's the only job we do here. Am I correct? Did I understand you correctly?
that's pretty much it. I mean,
You rubber
operate-
stamp it
any of the
all.
operations.
No, we're not a rubber stamp. I don't think that's a rubber stamp. He's saying we
No.
prioritize, but right now he's talking about the equipment, and we're looking at what we have on the schedule, which must stay there until we decide what's going to happen with contracting
Yes,
or
but these other
or
things
whatever.
play into it,
But they
Ellen.
stay
I
there.
mean, well, yeah, they stay there, absolutely.
Until
But
these
they other-
decisions
but
are
it all
made
plays
by the
into it.
budget committee and the board of selectmen,
I mean,
not
why do
by
we
the
have a CIP
CIP.
committee meeting? Forget it, why do we need it?
we don't need it.
Are we going to
I mean, I have
prioritize
better
what
things
this
to
board
do.
thinks?
I'm
Are we going
truthfully.
to prioritize
You just
what
want me
this
to
board?
spin in a rubber
Yes.
stamp?
Your
Yeah, you-
priority might be different than mine, might be
All our
different than his.
priorities are gonna be
So we will be
different.
doing that, but that wasn't the job of this young
All right,
man.
let's move on to what other things
That
that we're
was his
gonna
job to
discuss,
explain.
because we're never gonna get
Yeah,
out of here, we have
yeah,
different
Excuse me, but
priorities.
Mr. Anthony's has taken about a half an hour. I took 5 minutes. I think I'm allowed. Thank you. Now you may go on. My goodness, this is
Okay,
Mr.
ready?
Anthony's CIP committee, it appears.
No, I
Well,
don't,
that's what it
I don't agree
appeared to
with you,
be
I don't
tonight.
agree with you. All right, let's,
Okay.
what are we
let's get
moving
back
on
to
to
the
next,
schedule.
because we'll be here all night. for
I
that.
agree, and let's move on.
Do we want to move on to facilities?
Well, there was two issues, and that's the grader and the front loader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what, we had taken those off,
I know.
they're back on again. I don't see them on my list here.
I don't see them on my list either.
So-
They're in the original packet
Could have
that
a
was given out
comprehension
at the
issue.
beginning of the whole section.
Yeah, I can't, I'm sorry.
I can make it.
Yeah, that's all right. Okay. So right now, I think we should just leave those zero through the period of time, and then maybe address those,
Well, okay. You-
yeah. I mean,
That's fine. I can give you all kinds of arguments. That you always want to keep them on there. You have to keep them on there. Whether you fund them or not is when you rank.
No, that's fine that they're on, I'm just
I think
saying,
everybody still continue to miss that whole program.
no, I understand what you were
If you feel
saying.
strongly, you say, hey, listen, I don't think those things ought to be replaced. I like a different idea of doing
Yeah.
things, and.
Well, those two are
we're gonna
zeroed out all the
prioritize.
way across, so that's fine.
Yeah, there's no allocation of
Okay,
funds for them.
so we'll
See,
leave that alone.
The difficulty is that you shouldn't have this schedule the way it's written, unfortunately. But this is what you had, and I left it. It's amortized going across, which basically is kind of driving you to think that you have to fund it that way.
Right.
And you don't have to fund it that way. That's the real issue. You need to prioritize what is being requested by the department heads to say, you know what? I think he's out to lunch, and I don't think he knows what he's talking about. And until he maybe proffers additional information, or Nicole brings you in additional information, or the fire chief brings you additional information that satisfies you voting to say that is a priority, then that's how you vote. And it's not about voting, it's really about ranking.
Right.
You know, it's
Yeah.
Well,
about putting a percentage to whether or not that's a life safety issue, that they have to have it in order to maintain X amount of miles of road, or to protect, 2,600 properties in town, or whatever.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm saying, we now are looking at possibly for replacement, having us vote on $88,633 if we leave everything as is. What I said earlier was, we are now that's the old way. That's if you raise all the money and pay for it, or when you buy them, you'll have the money just sitting there. Well, with the interest rates so low, it doesn't really help you. In fact, it's just the opposite. And this is where, from what my research said, is towns and cities are now going with the idea of lease purchase. So you can cut that 88,000 sometimes in half, because you don't need that big amount of money, because you're not going to be putting it down that first year. You're going to be putting it down over a 5-year period and using.
Extend it out.
That's right. And so that's something we also as this committee, will have to look at, because this is the new direction cities and towns are doing. And I think we should also look into that. And if you could give us some idea of if we decide to do some equipment that way in the future, lease purchase rather than just having the money set aside, where would that $88,633 be then? It would reduce, but
She has a mind of her own.
okay. So you'll look into that for us?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Greg, I didn't hear, did you ask them to look into it?
I'm asking them to look into,
Lease purchase relationship to? Okay.
yeah, to the full purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just add something here? What I would like to see Mike do, that I think would be beneficial for you folks, is for him to prepare a narrative for you relative to each piece of these items that are listed out here. A, you already have the age and the type of vehicle.
Right.
2, to have the hours and have the mileage, or mileage for those vehicles. And then be able to establish what the percentage of use of those vehicles are and what functions in which they perform.
That'd be excellent.
Okay, so in other words, and I've explained this to a few people, is when I brought the CIPC committee to Moultonborough and they walked into the highway garage in the middle of summer, all they saw was a bunch of dump trucks parked in the garage. And they said, why do you need all these dump trucks? This is absolutely ludicrous. Why are we paying for all these dump trucks?
Well, even last year, we didn't get all the information we needed to
Okay.
make, I mean, without the information,
But-
all this.
Dennis, I'm not done.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I know what you're meaning, but in that situation, it caused to have to be able to explain why that is. And in my situation, which may not be the same as New Durham's, is the reason why that was, in the summertime, you don't need all those dump trucks lots of times because you don't have enough people to drive them. Because the guy that drives a dump truck in the wintertime is also a grader operator in the summertime, or maybe he's a backhoe operator. Or maybe if they're doing a ditching operation, they're using the grader and either a backhoe and or a loader, so that takes those people away from the dump trucks. So then you really only have 2 dump truck drivers. And so if you got a guy in the garage as a part-time mechanic, you lose him, so you have all these dump trucks sitting in the garage. So we did a lot of some of the things that you're talking about. Talk about a privatization where you end up bringing in an extra guy to come in and plow. That helps out. You can eliminate maybe down the road a dump truck, or set it out there for a spare. Or you end up taking another situation where you end up bringing in contractors to help out doing some of the other types of excavation work. Or you take a 10-wheel dump truck, and you buy a 10-wheel dump truck and reduce your fleet by 1 in order to be able to use a 10-wheel dump truck, so you have 1 operator instead of having to have 2. So, I mean, there's different things that can be done. Those are all on the operational side of things that can be done to help explain to you folks the justification-wise. So really, if Mike writes a narrative about each piece of equipment, so that you have an understanding about what its use is and potentially what the percentage of use is. He just gave me a percentage report that I haven't had a chance to actually write up so that I can give it to the board relative to their operations and where they spend their percentage of time in doing those few different functions, whether it be ditching or grading or these types of things. So that's another piece of information that would be beneficial for you folks, so you can figure out whether or not that's a justification thing that would work well in helping you, once again, do the ranking. Not to tell him how to do his job, okay? Your job really is to rank them and then give recommendations to the Board of Selectmen to have them make the difficult decision to say, hey, guess what, Mike? Let a guy go, get rid of a truck, but, those types of things. That's how that ends up going. So that's what I would like to see, that I think would help you.
Fine.
It would help me, it would help you.
Well, if we had the
because-
information that you said, yes,
Yeah.
it would be helpful.
type of thing there. I mean, as far as doing the leasing items, I've already made a request for those. I think you'll have that information at your next meeting. I put a call in this afternoon. I hope to have, you promised me I'd have it. I didn't have it. So I had
Is
to
this
follow
state
up on
bidding?
that.
Or is,
No, this is in regards to lease purchasing.
okay.
So So I'll have that information. Really not something for him to have to do.
Okay.
I'd rather, I don't know anything about his equipment other than what he gives me for a schedule.
Right.
And what I see on the road. So it's better for him to write about that and the usages of those vehicles and equipment. He can also provide, similar to what Mr. Biano has provided, is be able to provide, if in fact, I'm not sure it has a huge amount of relevance, but it may, a couple different scenarios. One scenario may be the grading of gravel roads by utilizing a private person to be able to do that, and utilize his numbers that he has built based upon wages and benefits of staff and an amortization of our actual equipment, where he takes the actual piece of equipment and based upon what it costs each year to actually own and operate that equipment, and then build that into an hourly
On an
rate.
annual basis, not just for the hours that's being worked. That's what you really have to look at. How many hours do you work the grader in a year, not,
Yeah.
anything else? And what is it doing? Is it ditching, is it grading, is it,
Yeah, and
because, people I
potentially-
talk to typically grade gravel roads 4 times a year. And I've had 2 people that are in that business tell me you can grade 3 to 5 miles of gravel road a day. So theoretically, we could grade 11 miles of gravel road in 3 days with a good operator, according to them, and they're professional grader operators.
And then they look
So-
like roads in other towns that aren't very good, the dirt roads, and ours seem to be the best
Well,
around. So maybe it's
well-
because we grade them more.
Oh,
What
I know this isn't the discussion.
What I want to have Mike do is I want to have him
But
actually
it's-
give you real
it's different.
numbers as to.
real numbers of what this
You got a guy
equipment's
that runs a
doing,
grader,
and cost
who does a good
justified.
job with it.
But the-
He can tell you exactly how long it
cost-effective way.
takes him to
Yeah.
grade, Middleton Road, for
Yeah.
example, and to grade that road. And, from start to finish, grade it, put it to shape, any other equipment that's needed, whether it be a water truck or a roll that needs to go along with that operation, or
And
whatever,
again,
you do that.
How
And
many
that's
hours is it gonna be used on an annual basis to do
how
that job?
how many hours that it gets used?
Annually.
Annually, that's, that's, hopefully they have enough data that they can pull that together.
That'd be nice.
Be able to build that. And then use the numbers out there for renting, renting a grader with an operator. Because I think that's the other piece of it. Another one was
Absolutely.
Greg's suggestion, whether or not we rent a piece of equipment, have our people run it. We've done a couple things there. Just this past week, we talked about renting an excavator in order to do a bunch of drainage work. In that, the piece of equipment's gonna cost us $27.50, or with the truck in it was $31.25 an hour. We're gonna put our guy in it with his benefits and everything. It's at 30 some odd dollars an hour, $35, $40 an hour. And so we're still well below what it costs to actually have somebody come in and do that work. When the economy is good, it's harder to get people to come in and do that work. When the economy is bad, they'll hopefully would be lined up at the door. So you have to keep that in mind as well. And you need them, when this guy calls and says that the road is rough up by his house, it was nice to have people, Johnny, on the spot to come up and make sure they got it taken care of. It's just
Did a
like
good
me
job,
now
too.
complaining about Middleton Road, because I went to my daughter's ribbon cutting ceremony in Middleton. I got to drive Middleton Road the other day, and I said, holy smokes, because I don't go over there.
It's
And,
nice.
it needs to be tuned up a little bit.
Yeah, well, look pretty good.
Keeps the speed down. And they were slowing down for me, I can tell you that.
Scott, I'd like to say
Yeah.
something.
I'm gonna add an additional,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say, cog in the wheel. But if you look at the capital improvement authorization, and it certainly seems to make sense to me considering that a good 80% of our tax budget goes to the school district, why don't we have a school board member on this board?
Well,
I mean, that's 80% of our tax dollars are headed out to cover our schools. I would see that a school board member should be,
I don't understand.
and
I
it's
don't
allowed for.
understand- Yeah, but I don't understand why we'd even want somebody. We're having trouble reaching a quorum with just us. We have somebody else.
Well, for long-range plans, I mean, they plan on building a new middle school somewhere. That is something we need to factor into our CIP possibly. I don't know, it's just when I looked up the recommended, by
Yeah.
mistake, the
I
recommended
actually-
composition.
I did.
Yeah. It does say, in preparing capital improvement programs, the planning board or the capital improvement committee shall confer with, and I'm skipping over, the budget committee, other municipal officers, school boards.
Do you have one on the planning? You have-
Well, actually, the CIP is a report that is prepared for the planning board, and is what is used to kind of drive the master plan. I mean, that is a report that comes under the auspices of the planning board. But I'm just wondering why we don't have a school board member representative.
I think when that was put together, it was somewhat generalized. It came from somewhere else, actually. And there are many towns, of course, that have their own, the school is part of their town. I think, for instance, Farmington belongs that way. This one is not that way. When we went to the school district, they became separate government.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, that
why
makes-
they don't
that
have
makes
anything to
sense.
do with our governing.
Yeah,
town.
separate entity.
Well, this isn't a governing body though, but wouldn't their input in their long-range plans be kind of relevant to
now, or do you want to do that?
our planning? I don't know, it's just a thought. Might only be a cog,
Well,
but
we're
it's
gonna
just a
be-
thought.
That'll be a late meeting.
Cheryl's meeting.
Okay, so you want him to come back and work on this?
Yeah, I think that he has to do that other stuff that
Okay.
Scott recommended, it'd be far more valuable, then we can go through that quickly.
Okay.
You know.
All right, good.
I knew it would be a long evening.
Yeah, yeah,
Because he's the lion's share.
yeah. So we're
Big
gonna,
shoulders.
yeah, you're gonna have to come back because you got a lot of information for us to find.
Okay.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to
Yes.
the?
Do you have anything else you want to let us know about?
Just in regards to facilities, I've gone around and spoken
Oh,
to
yeah,
each
the
department
school,
head.
the library was one of the things that.
Once again, that's something that's coming into play, so we're gonna have, I would like to have someone come out, look at these, give us quotes on what they found. I mean, we have some things that haven't reached that threshold of a capital improvements, but I would like to have someone come out so we can put some numbers to it to have that work done.
Okay. It wasn't leaking though,
From what I've understood, no, it's not.
What are we talking about?
There was a leaking roof at the library.
Oh,
No one has
No, they
seen.
said the oil, I thought Kathy mentioned that the oil was leaking.
No, it's not.
No.
He inspected it.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm down in there myself.
Yeah.
Exactly,
That was not fun, but that did happen. Sound like 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag, if you know what I mean. But I did accomplish it, so.
Yeah, you're a big guy, I don't.
You gotta get in there and, work them corners, so. But going around, I spoke with Mr. Bernier. He would like to have somewhat of an addition. He's talked about maybe putting on a 10 by 10 off the back for a staff room, things like that. But once again, it all comes down to the dollar figure, so we have to have someone come in and actually look at those and give us a
And
number.
Kathy from the library had mentioned they might want us a storage area for.
Some storage, some carpeting.
Yeah.
There was some items, so now it's just putting some numbers together, and we're gonna have to do that.
So you're working on that for
Yes,
us?
I will be.
And how do you find this town hall? I mean, have you looked at the town hall and
It's-
see what needs to be done on that?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to do some painting, we're gonna have to do some ceiling tile work. Obviously up the back staircase there's some work that needs to be done, we just need to get someone in that will. be willing
So
to-
you'll give us numbers on that?
Yeah.
You think it'll be over 10 grand?
For the, to paint the outsides,
Well, all this.
I would say so. Granted.
And we can pull that from one of our accounts, right? That we already have
Just,
money in?
If we had to paint the exterior of this place, this is a large building, I would think that.
Isn't it just painted? I remember seeing somebody up on the,
2007.
2007,
this is somebody sooner than
Almost
that
10
one.
years ago.
getting close, places. Steeple was
Is the cost, yeah. Have you looked at the outside to see if it needs to be painted this year or next year? Or is it?
I was expecting I expected 3 years out. That's about what I looked at.
To start working on the
Yeah.
paint? So we might want to, if
Yeah,
there's not
this
enough
is
money
this
in
is a new
that
entity,
account.
We've never had facilities here that have been part of the CIP, so.
Okay, so what you're saying is if you'll get those numbers for us, and then if we don't have enough money in that account, this is exactly what we're supposed to do.
That's right.
Start setting aside money for that.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
all
what we're
right. But you'll do
You ran
that.
$50,000 in 2007.
Pardon me?
You ran $50,000 in 2007.
To paint it.
But that, yes, and that included the take removal of the old paint.
Well, they scraped off, or
They use the heat, or a
Heat gun, yeah.
light thing.
That's what I'm saying, it's gonna be well over $10,000.
Would we have to do that again, or can we paint over what we have
What
now?
about siding unless it has
No, we can't
historical
do-
significance?
No, this is a historic building.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Jeez.
Once it's final, right?
It doesn't matter,
Let's
vinyl
put
or
aluminum
aluminum, it
siding on
doesn't
it.
matter, but you don't have to keep painting it for 50 grand every 2 years.
Yeah.
I think we have a historic thing.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought. I thought it was-
so from there, that's where I'm at, and I'm working on that.
For
Okay.
an example, with this situation here, where you've had, I mean, the library does have, they have a capital reserve, a couple different capital reserve funds, if I remember, right, for, don't they have something?
Yeah, they did, I think it was under $60,000 the last time. It was
Yeah,
quite
I
a
mean,
bit.
they may not have any money on the accounts, but they were, I think they had a capital reserve fund that dealt with that building. We did not utilize that on the HVAC because there wasn't enough money in that account. We used it under the other town buildings, if I remember right.
You're right.
I
Yeah,
didn't bring the,
No, you're right.
I got the sheet here.
Yeah.
Public
But
safety
this is just a
facilities.
prime example, is that if Mike
Is that what you wanted to
can
say?
pull all these numbers together, yeah, well, it was that total sheet
Okay.
that I gave you, but if Mike can pull these numbers together, even though your furnace replacement, you know, whether it ends up being, you know, a year or two, because we said we want to test drive a year over there,
Right.
by doing the new HVAC units there, and see how that holds and what it maintains and such, is that, yeah, a long-range plan would be to look at some other kind of, see what the heating should be, or could be, in that situation there. I think the price quote that we had before was under $8,000
Yes, it
to
was.
put in to heat just a regular furnace. And I would estimate that the carpet, for an example, if you did the whole place, it may be,
she said $10,000 some
Well, that was
bucks.
an estimate.
An
Yeah.
estimate that she
you know,
got.
just a rough idea,
Yeah.
I would think it would be 10 or maybe be a little bit less. I've always done those type of projects in phases, so it didn't, so in other words, you put a little bit of money in, you take a little bit of money out, put a little bit of money in, you know, in that situation there. But this is a perfect example where you do have that capital reserve fund for maintenance of town buildings, that, you know, that's one of those ones, if you put a little bit of money in, because you're always drawing from it. I mean, this year here, we've drawn from it probably close to half a dozen times. We've done renovations of the bathrooms at the highway garage, we repaired the mezzanine because Department of Labor.
Excuse me 1 minute. Is that done now? The bathrooms are done? Are they using them now?
Yeah.
And how do you find that? Is that, did they do a
It's
good
wonderful.
job?
Yeah, it came out very nice.
Oh, I haven't been over to see them. I was halfway through the project. And how about the loft? Well, I call it the
Awesome.
loft. What do you call
The
it?
DOL was tickle pink.
Okay. All right, thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
So, I mean, there's a lot of those different things. We did some repairs here when we moved offices around. So those things came out of that fund, but money hadn't been planned maybe to, I think did you put some money in last
No.
year?
Is this build, that's the question I wanted to ask, is that building improvement you're talking about?
Yes.
0 in 2015 and 0 in 2016 was recommended by the CIP, and in 2015, 0 was appropriated. 0
Yeah, I-
recommended in 2016, and I don't remember if they appropriated
And a
it.
perfect example, and I'm not gonna climb in everybody's heads over here on the CIP then, is that maybe they didn't have enough data to say, hey, listen, they got some stuff coming up. We better tuck a little bit of money away so we can go ahead and have it ready. The other thing is, there was an energy audit done of this building. It's about $21,000 to do the audit itself. It will end up, the co-op will give us about $7,000 towards that,
I applied
which
for a
will
grant.
leave, which will leave about $14,000 for the town to have to come up with. So I mean, those are a couple of things here. There's a lighting project that could be done here as well. If I remember right, that one was right around $6,000. And co-op,
talked about
again,
that,
will give
yeah.
you some grant money. There's grant money out there that'll help you out with that. But once again, those are things that would be pulled out of there. Either that or be called out as a special warrant article type of thing. But if you have a capital reserve fund, you can plan for it, and you put a little bit of money in there, that's where that ranking would come in. Because I think if you saw that, okay, yeah, oh, it needs to be painted, and we get a couple more years out of it, let them go ahead and paint it, $50,000-$60,000, we gotta make sure we get the money in there to be able to take care of it, because you don't want the fund to go dry on you.
No.
Because if the well goes, or the septic goes, or the furnace goes, it was unpredicted, we're gonna need it, you know, and, for the rainy day.
So the two of you are gonna get those numbers for us then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike's pretty close, I mean, we figured, you know, we took rough numbers, and that's what's always hard with department heads and CIPC, is when you go get the numbers themselves, like, I mean, these truck numbers that were in here, and even some, I just found two more that were, they're completely off, I mean, they're not off the charts, they're way below the charts. I mean,
I'm sorry, what do you
you
mean?
can't buy a pickup truck now
Oh.
for $35,000
Yeah.
with a plow.
Yeah.
It's just- You just can't do that.
The numbers are wrong.
Yeah,
What
the
you said.
numbers aren't there. The state bid pickup truck was, you know, it's, you're gonna spend $40,000 all day long, you know? But I mean, that's just the type of things there, is it has to be refreshed and updated, you know, all the way through, just like, you know, in 2007, you know, we might be lucky on some of the building stuff, sometimes those things, you know, kind of way out of sight, depending on what's happening with the trading and stuff.
Well, we'll have to do
I
the,
asked Mike if the librarian, the head librarian spoke to you about painting the building, the library?
Yes, she
Did she?
has.
Okay, all right, so that's something you're
So
looking
yeah,
at.
we're gonna get, that's the whole thing, I'm gonna get a punch list together, which I've pretty well
Okay.
accomplished, and we're gonna work that, and start getting some folk in, and
well, you're gonna be busy.
So does
a
all of
good idea.
that, does all of that come out, or does the library have their own fund for that?
Well, I
Library
understand
improvement,
they have
building
their
improvement,
own funding.
for that?
Well, it's a town building,
Library-
the library's,
Right.
But they have there's a fund, just for
There's
that.
library facilities.
Yeah.
But there's like nothing in it.
well, they can't even
What-
figure
what
out
do
their
you-
monthly budget.
CRF, ETF, sheet
That I just had?
Right?
Yeah.
No. Because if it-
Last thing,
The town building improvement, I don't know what you took out of it this year, but we put nothing in 2016. We had like 116,000, but they've taken stuff out since
Out of the building
2015.
improvement account, yeah, I mean, we've taken, you know,
Sewer here.
I mean, it may have been, you know, I'm guessing it's probably $25,000.
So it's down below, well, down below 100,000.
Yeah, it's probably below 100,000.
You're gonna have to put some in this year.
You know, they have a building fund, maintenance fund for the public safety buildings,
Right.
and police and fire, that's a separate CRF or ETF. That's under public safety facilities.
Right.
I'm just looking to see if I see the library. Let's see.
Public safety, it doesn't say facilities, is that the facilities,
Yeah.
10,000 that we put in?
No, I'm sorry, that's a
No.
different fund, I believe.
Okay,
I think that one there, the one that still has,
that was a CRF.
public safety building facilities has about $97,000 in it. And then there may be, if there's another
Yeah,
public safety
that's-
one, that may have been when they actually, in 2004, when they did the study for a new fire station. It may have been, was there a capital reserve fund, do you remember? for
I'm
that
looking,
before?
We have public safety, and we have building improvement one, and I think
Right.
that library facility. There should be two of them for library, I think.
what's
One for inside, one for outside, I think.
what's SWF facilities improvement?
Solid waste facilities.
Okay, because in there like $10,000 2 years ago, and we put nothing in to that last year or the year before.
Sometimes they have funded because they appear to be more than enough in there for foreseeable. near future.
I just, yeah, I understand that. Just looking at how much is in these. How much is left.
Okay, I think we're ready to.
Okay,
Do you have anything else for me, or?
Well, when are we gonna schedule?
yeah, and who are we gonna schedule for the next meeting?
Well, if he has enough time, when he's got a
You're gonna be
lot on his
awful
plate to
busy.
bring back some information for us.
I think you should give him a little lead time.
That's a meeting.
Tomorrow, is it okay with you?
He's gonna be a busy boy.
Yeah, he is.
Because
Yeah.
next Thursday, he's gonna get his budget packet, he's gonna have a budget back in the
Oh,
next
shit.
14 days.
We don't wanna
You'll
overburden
find
you.
that I'm gonna be the tyrant around here.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
2 library accounts, one's 7,000, one's 4,000.
7 and 4?
I'm not,
So that's not-
I have to go look at the descriptions to find out what they go for.
That won't cover
Sometimes-
carpet, and that won't cover
I'll cover
Yeah.
painting.
maybe a portion of it. But like you say, you want to leave some in the account.
Yes. So, you know, that's.
we don't have any
kind of
additional
decide-
town
don't
agencies,
make a
we've
decision.
gone through them all now, so,
That's correct.
so,
We talked a little bit about leasing information, capital improvement.
yeah, but he's got so much to do, we gotta give him a little bit of lead time to
That's
come
right.
back with this.
Tonight?
I'm not sure if it was for tonight.
Okay. Solid waste tonight? Is he doing solid waste tonight?
He does solid waste too. mean,
I know,
One thing
it's-
you have is, in the future, I think as a compactor, one of the, vertical compactors there is up for replacement. I wanna say it was
We
2000.
got a new one, looks good, it works good too. I mean, I like
So that's
it.
the big one.
Yeah.
You're talking about the ones that do cardboard and aluminum cans, or not? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah,
One or the other needs to be replaced?
Well, it's in the schedule.
It's in the
Be done.
schedule.
Oh.
So once again, we've wanted that thing because it's an asset that we need to.
Yeah. Have you talked to Joe to see if it needs to be replaced on the schedule that we have?
2018.
It's 2018, so I mean, it's gonna come up in the next 2 years. I mean, you gotta think what those things go through. I mean, their whole job is to
Oh,
ram
yeah.
things and swill and, you know,
Can he tell us though if 18 is the magic number, or can we extend it out?
I'll definitely speak with Joe.
Okay.
And, you know, get his take
Input.
on that and,
Great.
you know.
You know, and that fund, if in fact that stays, you know, is, you know, Joe's saying, yeah, it's about the same amount of money. Yeah, it's, you know, its life cycle is coming up to the end. Because you can have the guy that services them and does his preventative maintenance, he can tell them. I mean, he can tell them whether or not the motors are getting weak or getting tired. He can tell them whether or not it can be refurbished, you know, type of thing there. I mean, they can rebuild some of them, but once again, you gotta weigh that out based on the cost, because we kind of looked at that, we looked at the other compactor, whether or not we're gonna save that other one, and the guy basically said, it's not worth it.
Yeah, that's right. But this one we're talking about, they can get the service guy out, Joe can get it with them, and he'll get with Mike, and Mike can come back with us.
Prime example though, that fund there, when you go to rank things, and you start to look at things, and you know that this is coming up down the road, we virtually have depleted that amount because we just bought that big compactor.
That's right.
For 35,000.
So we're gonna have to know.
There's not much money left in it.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
you know, when you rank things, you're gonna say, all right, we're gonna have to replace that. So even though, you know, your capital reserve, you've been tucking away, and I didn't add up what you had last year, $180,000 roughly about in capital reserve funding. And, you know, you gotta figure out where those little pieces all go based upon that magic number. I'm assuming that, you know, the budget committee and selectmen are, you know, kind of looking at that, you know, flat budget. So, 1% plus or minus, that was,
all right, I think we've covered just about everything, guys.
Worry about it.
My rule of lasting 1 hour has gone out the window.
Well,
So-
2:15, yeah, 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, right, I thought we'd get through
Not
it.
bad.
Yeah,
So
not
when could you meet with us, when do you think you can put this together and meet with us?
I'm gonna have to call some contractors. It's just gonna be, it's gonna take some time. It's not gonna be, you know, immediately.
Couple weeks?
I'm gonna be honest with you, yeah, I'm gonna have to.
Couple weeks, all right.
Will that fall within our,
I'm gonna have to deal with the budget as well, so.
yeah,
It should fall, we want to wrap everything up by October, right? We can, and we should,
I
we
would like to
should.
hope October could be possible, yeah.
They needed a couple of weeks before that, so they can rent them.
yeah.
right.
So middle of September, would that be pushing you?
Yeah.
It would be pushing you.
Third week of September, how's
I
that?
mean, you know, Mr. Anthony, once again, I have a crystal ball. As soon as I can get someone to look at these things, get the numbers to you, you'll have them.
Okay,
You know, I don't want to make you a false promise.
Okay.
And say, you know, because this person couldn't get here, or
Yeah.
vice versa, but
yeah,
I will diligently work on that.
yeah, we're under a deadline
I
ourselves.
understand, sir.
I guess we all are.
So the third week in September?
Yes, we can shoot for that.
Okay, so the third Wednesday would be, got a calendar done?
Understand, what I would ask Mike to do is just to call up one of his contractor buddy guys and say, how much is it a square foot?
Yeah,
And, you know.
we're talking about the painting.
All
was-
rough numbers.
Yeah,
Because I don't believe in having anybody come and give you a cost estimate on anything until a year before you're gonna do the project. Because everything changes,
yeah,
okay? So, no sense spending a lot of staff time, a lot of staff money. Say, I got a 10 by 10 addition going on to a modular unit, is it $140, you know, or, you know, a square foot, or what is it, construction cost wise, to put something in with either a frost foundation or otherwise. My bag today, I didn't give them the modular carpet price, because I never got to that to give it to them, but I've got a modular carpet price from when I did modular carpet. Now, has it gone up a little bit? I doubt it. Textiles have generally held about the same, if not less, because it's all based on the oil price, so I would think that it would be right in the same ballpark. So we can at least give you those rough numbers so you know what kind of numbers you might need to fund those, so.
Yeah, you'll
I don't
want
think
to
it'll-
put this in a pecking order, what's important to you and us right now. And then things in the future, like these additions, maybe,
So we're looking
put
at
those
September
last,
21st.
if that'll help you.
yeah,
Okay.
September 21st, so,
So September 21st sounds,
We can give that a shot.
yeah, try to do the best you can. I mean, we know that you've got a hell of a task ahead of you putting all these numbers together,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I mean,
Well, the two of you working together, I think that would be helpful, don't you think?
yeah, I mean.
Mike, are you comfortable with that?
I think the only thing that I don't have anything on that, you know, that is gonna have to be on Mike is about the equipment, the usage, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. He's gonna get those
Yeah.
numbers to you. He's gonna tell you what
So
the
that's number
operational
one.
hours are
Yeah.
and how that equates out
Right.
on that side of things here, so we can give it to you in a written form, so you can read it, understand it, and either develop questions. There really should not be questions, I mean, it's questions about whether or not it's a valuable asset.
Right.
As far as how you're gonna fund it and how you're gonna rank it in that situation there. And, you know, going forward. As far as putting the facilities numbers together, I mean, I think we can get those numbers probably the easiest. If he has a spreadsheet already developed that he put together, and all you gotta do is put the numbers to it, and you can figure out what the bottom line is on doing these projects over the next 10 years.
September
And
22nd.
set some money aside to fund it,
we don't have.
if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Because, yeah, well, that's right, the facilities, we'll have to know about this building, painting and all that. Because if we only have whatever you said it was, and it's going to be in 3 years, we're going to have to start putting some money aside for that. And that would be very helpful for us to know.
Absolutely.
So you know what we're asking.
I do know what you're asking.
Great, great. This is
Well-
not your first rodeo, I'm assuming.
No, it's not.
Okay, so the next order of business is.
Well, he can leave then. Are you through with him?
Yeah, well, you're all done. See you, I want to give you the date, though, September 21st, so you know.
Yes, sir.
You're going to be a busy guy,
Yeah,
I know.
we'll get it done.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you, Mike.
You're
Thanks,
welcome,
Mike,
sir.
yeah.
Thank you all for your
Good
time. I
job.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
good job.
Drive safe home.
Yeah, you too.
Absolutely.
I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
What about all this other material you passed out? Is that anything we need to?
Probably
should we
just
look
review
at
it,
for the
yeah.
next?
Yeah, I mean, I basically said that I would get you the leasing information, how that looks like
Right.
for municipal leasing.
Okay.
On that side. It gives you a comparison between commercial, what the differences are between commercial and municipal leasing that's in that packet. And also I gave you.
Was there bond service in there? The
What's that?
cost of bond service?
No bonds, I didn't do any bond
Right.
debt service on that
Debt
side.
service, yeah.
I can tell you that the municipal leasing people would rather have you go out and buy a fleet of dump trucks and lease them versus buying just one at a time. They actually say they give better rates because of that. He didn't explain that to me, but, he said, if your police cars need to be replaced, replace all of them at the same time. Now, I don't know about how that all works, but, I said on the interviews down in Kittery, Maine, and I couldn't believe it, they were gonna replace like 4 dump trucks all in 1 year. I said, wow. But that's how they're looking at it. They're gonna weigh out the bond and weigh out the lease and figure out which one is gonna be the best for them. I said, well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, 4 at a
But
time.
can you replace a cruiser, a dump truck, a compactor? I mean, can
Yeah,
you?
you can combine them.
Yeah,
They'll
okay, still
let
get a
you-
better price?
Yep, they'll let you combine them and it's a total gross amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Just a question of organizational thing. Who is writing the report, and given that only facilities are left, you probably could get most of the report done other than facilities before the 21st, I would think. to see
Who's
some-
writing the report?
Yeah, I don't know who's writing the report for the CIP.
Was it-
But the point that I was making is that whoever it is, you may be able to
Secretary
get most of that
doesn't
report
have-
written before the 21st, given that only facilities is the one that's remaining.
Well, we don't have a secretary, we never nominated one.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Somebody has to.
Yeah. And so if we nominate a secretary, then she's responsible, or he's
Well,
responsible for
Yeah,
that?
not being a
I don't know that it's,
So you would decline that if you were
Yes,
nominated?
yes, yes, I would decline
That answers that question.
Yes.
So, well, so the town, or somebody's
Just a
gonna.
question of
Yeah, well,
organizational
you're right.
size,
I mean, it would be
and
great if we had.
suggestion you might
I
want to
would
get
help
most of it done
someone
before
write it,
the
but I
21st.
won't write it. I would work with someone to write it.
I mean,
That responsibility in my first year.
I
at
can make
CIP.
copies of it, but I just received this the other day. This happens to be Bolton Boroughs, but it gives you their CIP. This is more abbreviated form than what I've seen in the past, but it basically it outlines what their recommendations are and provides their rankings and their spreadsheets relative to that. And different department reports are included in there as far as their rankings go that way.
Oh, that's a good question.
Have we gotten departments reports? I mean, I know we
What's
did
that?
from the rec. Have we gotten department reports? I know we did from rec. I don't remember seeing,
They actually, the other ones were only the police and fire, were only the spreadsheets.
it's just the
So they didn't
spreadsheets, not
actually
the
provide a
reports.
narrative with it.
Okay.
Maybe they
Generally-
should.
Generally, the way this process really should work is, and I can show you, and I have packets here. The bad part is that, we're putting the cart before the horse, but in that situation there's actually forms. So moving forward, my recommendation will be to the Board of Selectmen that hopefully will help out in putting that forward to next year, is that each department head, instead of them trying to play with these spreadsheets and use a crystal ball, they'll use a crystal ball in saying what they feel is the life cycle of a piece of equipment, or how they feel that they can make this work. So library, year one, carpet on the children's side, year two, carpet on the, whatever the other book side is, and be able to chart that by the years and put those amounts in. And they submit that to the, as part of the package. The department head then submits the actual worksheet form, it itemizes that out, and a cover memo that basically says, these are why I feel that these are important, and basically gives you their need. And lots of times you have to weed out whether it's a need or a want.
Well, moving forward, or leaning forward on this, we're going to ask each department head to do a narrative along with, now, when they're all gonna come back anyway.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
what the hell, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
that doesn't make
really,
sense?
I mean,
Recreation's narrative was very clear, which
Yeah.
is what we would like to see.
it was very nice.
Other-
Which one, Parks and
It
Rec?
was very
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
Put together a nice.
Well, she's gotta come back with
She's gonna add some more
additional,
detail.
yeah, for the truck
Yeah.
and so forth, and we asked her to do that, so she'll do that.
What I'll probably ask her to do is just to update that memo that she gave to you with what you have requested as now
Right.
a follow-up.
Right,
Same way on the playground equipment, she'll add
But she
took-
said she's
has
already
the,
got that, she has just.
the estimate,
Right.
and she can add that to it as well. And, really in the public works estimate that needs to be put together is put in what you know now. And then next year, you would hope that you would see what we've maybe learned from trying out some of these other things. That's what you would want to see, or you would ask for.
when's the date that we need to have this all wrapped up and in a report to send to planning?
I mean, I wanted to see it early, but, I think definitely I would think definitely by October 1st.
Yeah, because I won't be here mid-October, I'm
Right.
hospitalized, so.
You want this done before the end of September then?
Ideally, that's
Yeah.
what. that's what I was
We're gonna
hoping.
have a couple more meetings before the 21st then.
That's why I was.
I thought we were meeting every week. I thought that was what we had said.
Well, if we want, we've got a consensus here, who do we want to come call next weekend?
Well,
I don't think you have to.
call people, we've got
I
some
think
work
we
to
gotta-
do on each one of the information that we've received so far.
All right,
And so we can kick that around.
So we
When
want-
it becomes available, can you email it to us?
Yeah,
copies
oh
for
yeah,
review or
definitely.
something?
As they start putting stuff in, we'll just go ahead and send it to you.
Either to the.
Wednesday, the 7th is a board of selectmen meeting, so we can't do it that night.
Correct.
So the 14th is another Wednesday, which I think is open. Does anybody have anything?
Yeah, Wednesdays are set.
none next week?
It's
Well,
a
we can do
select-
next week, it just can't be Wednesday.
Well, can we have it on another day?
Sure.
If we want to wrap this up,
We could do it earlier, before the board of
Planning
selectmen.
board is on Tuesday, so.
We could do it on Wednesday earlier than the board of
Now,
selectmen.
if we started at 5, we could be done by 7.
I can do it on
Be
five.
less starts.
There is a.
Is a, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a training thing that I know the town clerk is running at 5:30 that same day, the 7th. I don't know if anybody's involved.
how about Friday?
Involved.
Friday Friday is what date? 'Cause
The
I'm-
8th is
The 9th.
Thursday.
Um,
The 8th is Thursday.
The 8th.
Thursday.
Eight, I have a meeting, I'm sure that wouldn't bother people, but I have
Okay.
another
Thursday would
meeting.
be better.
Hmm?
Thursday would be better than a Friday night.
We have a program going on at the library on social security and so forth. I'd hate to have another meeting.
What date?
conflict with that on the 8th, the Thursday, the 8th,
What time? in the library?
7.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
We do it at 5?
Meet during the day.
Friday the 9th.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Friday evenings are bad for me.
I'll meet on Sunday.
During the day. everybody
Saturday,
can meet.
Well, during the day is fine with me,
I can meet during the day.
except for Thursday.
I don't know what people got going
I
on.
can't, unless
First thing in the
bring all my
morning,
grandchildren.
right the tail end of the
Bring them.
afternoon or something.
And I'd bring 3 under 4.
Bring them.
Oh, jeepers.
And I bring three
Under
under
4.
Yeah.
Want to
And
set up
she has
daycare?
2.
I-
Yeah, so
I
we
think
have
the
5
fever
little
has
ones.
got me.
No, I'd rather meet on a Friday night.
Should be a short meeting.
Yeah, it'd be very short if we had all those kids there, let me tell you.
So,
Yeah,
for sure,
we-
is everybody set on the 14th then, Wednesday at 7?
I can't do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we got that one down.
14th.
We got the 21st down, and then we're gonna have to put the report together to bed on the 28th, right? Wednesday, 28th, you just wanna meet on that?
That will be the last one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you put it together, but then you need someone to type it up and do all the spreadsheets.
Yeah. Well, I'll look about that. Okay. So then, next week, well, it's a vacation day on Monday, Labor Day. And then everything else is kind of booked up.
We probably won't have much input by next week anyway.
Yeah.
For the holiday. I
Yeah.
don't see Mike getting back to us with much by then.
So we'll do the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th.
Yeah,
And then maybe a lot of work behind the scenes, sending information out to everybody and put the stuff together then.
yeah.
Does that sound good?
That sounds, yeah, that sounds
Actually, the
equitable.
28th, I have a Parks and Recreation meeting, and I believe Scott said that he would be attending that as well. The 28th of September
28th is the,
Wednesday,
is the Wednesday.
what time are they meeting?
We meet at 6.
yes, at 6.
Yep.
Yep, that's what we said.
How long does that last?
Well, the other night, it wasn't too bad, it was about 2.
About 7:30,
Yeah,
and 7:45 we were, I think I was home by 8 o'clock.
yeah.
You want to move it to the next day, the 29th?
You know what, I can't. I
You
only
got
have
budget.
4 people, and when 4 people make a commitment, that's, if I move anything, one person drops off
Yeah.
because of a work
It-
schedule, and I don't
yeah,
have.
Thursday won't work, Board of Selectmen and Budget Committee, so that won't work.
So the 28th isn't a good date then.
Yeah, sorry.
Either before or after the 7 o'clock.
What time do you normally meet? Todd, with Parks and Rec? 7?
6 o'clock. We meet at 6, yeah.
Well, you want to
You wanna
do
meet
it,
at 6?
For 7:30?
We meet at 6.
you think?
7:30 would be fine if you can wrap up your meeting.
You wanna go 7:30? I can make
Yeah.
it go.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
All right, if you're willing to wait, hold off till 7:30.
Okay.
Is that okay with you? You think that you can get an hour and a half done?
I figured by Christmas I'll be pretty much ready for something, I'm not sure.
Okay, so CIP will be 7:30 on the
28th.
28th. 7 and 7 on the 14th and 21st. So we're just taking next week off, but we'll just get as much information out.
Yeah,
That we talked about the minutes, everybody put their suggestions
Yeah.
in, type them up, send them to Scott, and then our next meeting, what we do is we look them all over with the changes that people
so you're gonna
have.
put your suggestions in, send it to Scott, you also,
I'll actually, this one, I took notes on the minutes as you spoke, and if I missed something, please let me know.
All right.
If I didn't word it correctly, please let me know.
That's a better
I will
idea.
send you out a
You
marked
send a draft?
copy,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then if you see something, let me know,
all right.
and, you know, that way it'll be a document that we
That's
can
fair.
Fine,
That sounds fair.
act
Yep,
on.
that
I can
sounds-
at least do that part,
Okay.
sometime between now and.
Let's see, elections on the 13th, that evening would be fine. I don't think we'll be anyway. Okay. How's that look for you, Dennis?
Yeah, that's fine, these dates are fine with me,
Okay.
and Scott's suggestion is fine also.
And if we get into like the 14th and we say, geez, 2 meetings won't cut it, we'll just have to add some more meetings the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, as long as it's before the 12th of October, because I won't be here then.
Oh, no, we gotta get this done.
No, we want to get it
The
done by the
week,
first, yeah.
Well, and I think if in fact I can, I'll ask each of the other department heads, fire chief and the police chief, who you've already met with,
Mhm.
to write up a little, just a.
Yes,
Those are easy.
yeah, they should
Based
be
upon what
easy.
they told you.
We went through those fairly quickly,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
This one I knew would take a long time.
Facilities is the
Yeah,
one
and
that
then
is gonna
what I'll
be
do
new.
is I'll ask them to put together just a summary and then a
Yeah.
recommendation. And then that way you have it
Okay.
in the file, you can include it in the report. And then you can do a summarized report from that after you, and I would encourage you to use these rating sheets that I have when you then take the projects,
Yeah.
go down through them, and you can score them out.
Yeah.
You're gonna send those to us then?
Good, that's an excellent
That
idea.
was September 14th, it was also
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, we're adjourned. This was a long
We gotta
day.
vote.
Oh,
Yeah, all those in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
I don't think we're gonna get it. No nays on that.
Okay.
Not 2.5 hours.
So 14, 21, 28, right?
Yep, 14,
It's-
21, 28 at 7:30.
Yeah, they-
I'm gonna
yeah,
put up another, general
They will get
posting.
yeah, 14th, 7 o'clock,